now. We're going to Italy. Tell me, mommy, ma. Oh, it's so
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم في برنامج نيوكاسل مع وليد. معنا الشباب ديفيد وألان بدر. مرحبا فيكم يا شباب.
الله يسلمك يا وليد. نشرف فيكم وألف مليون مبروك الفوز 3-1.
Welcome David.
Halla, كيف حالك everyone? How is everybody? Another 3 points for the mighty Toonami.
Can you sing just now?
Oh yeah. Okay, let me just embarrass myself in front of everyone then. Was it tell me, mommy, ma, we won't be home for tea. We're going to Italy. Okay, tell me, mommy, ma. Yes, right. Off to Italy, boys. The Champions League's calling.
Come on, let's go.
Off to the San Siro. That's what we're going. Gonna go and whip the Milan clubs nicely. Hopefully we'll get Juventus as well. That'd be nice. If they're even allowed to play in Europe, that is. Obviously, with their financial difficulties going on, they might be relegated once again, which is boo-hoo. So sad to hear. You know.
مرحبا فيك يا ألان. مرحبا فيك.
مرحبا. أهلا وسهلا.
ممتاز، الصوت ممتاز. طبعا مبروك الفوز يا شباب. راح نتكلم اليوم عن العديد من المواضيع. طبعا بالبداية راح نتكلم عن المباراة، راح نتكلم عن عقد الرعاية، وراح نتكلم برضو عن النادي الجديد اللي راح ينضم في نموذج الأندية اللي يملكها صندوق الاستثمارات العامة. طبعا احنا نرحب فيكم من فوف، المقر الرسمي والراعي الرسمي لنادي نيوكاسل، مشجعي نادي نيوكاسل في السعودية. طبعا اليوم احنا عندنا راح نتكلم عن برضو أبطال أوروبا في شوي من التفصيل. طبعا لا دائما ننساها هذه، لا تنسوا الاشتراك في مجتمع نيوكاسل على الواتساب، آخر الأخبار الحصرية، وطبعا كود البرنامج لمشترياتكم النون WNU0. نبدأ في مباراة اليوم. ستارت معك بدر بما أنك معي في الاستديو. كيف شفت المباراة؟ شفناها سوا. كيف شفت المباراة اليوم؟
والله شوف، بداية المستوى كان ممتاز. الشوط الثاني، الشوط الأول ما كان عاجبني درجة كبيرة يعني. كان في كم هفوة في الشوط الأول، خصوصا دفاعيا يعني كان الوضع سيء يعني. الشوط الثاني بداها ساوثهامبتون سجل الهدف، صعب علينا الأمور شوي، بس أنا كنت متوقع صراحة إن إيدي هاو ممكن يتصرف في الموضوع هذا. تتذكر قلت لك كولسن بيدخل ويسجل، والصحيح سجل الهدف الأول، بعد الثاني والثالث انلغى، أو عفوا الأول والثاني انلغى، الثالث عاد جاء والحمد لله يعني. غير كذا صراحة مستوى الشوط الثاني مغاير مرة، وأعطى روح شوي للفريق كولسن.
أنا كنت متخوف من خط الوسط، نفس الخط الوسط اللي خسر من أسهم فيلا.
إيه صحيح.
إيش رأيك وش اللي تغير في الوسط، خصوصا إنه لونج ستاف يعني قالوا إنه مصاب؟
أنا أشوف صراحة التركيبة هذه فيها مشكلة بسيطة، اللي هو المحور. عندك محور دفاعي، بس تحل النقطة هذه أنا صدقني بتكون ممتاز بالوسط، وبنفس الوقت حتى هجوميا أكثر أفضل. يكون عندك زيادة هجومية من جيمرش، وفي عندك بعد زيادة هجومية من جولنتن إذا كنت تبي تعتمد على جولنتن أصلا. خلاص يكون في ساتر دفاعي حرفيا. فليش ما نقول ممكن لاعب زي رايس مثلا؟ ليش ما
راح نتكلم عن
لاعب زي هذا ممكن يغطي لك الكوارث الدفاعيه اللي قاعد تصير وراء. احنا شفنا اصلا بوتمان اليوم شلون جاب العيد، ورجع الكره بالخطا، عشان بوب طلع وشال الكره. كل الكوارث هذه ممكن يحلها لاعب واحد. شوف بس المحور الدفاعي بيحل الكوارث هذه كلها. لكن بشكل عام الروح اللي طلعت والكمباك هذا شيء خرافي، شيء ممتاز. باقي 6 نقاط وإن شاء الله بنتأهل بإذن الله الأبطال.
بإذن الله. ديفيد, how you see the game?
First half, let's face it, that's not going down in the history books as a classic, is it? That was pretty terrible. I don't know. I just got the feeling that there was almost a certain amount of arrogance. They assumed that obviously we were just going to be able to walk all over them, as Southampton proved at Arsenal when they drew 3-3. That's not the case. You know, they came and they gave a much better account of themselves than Spurs did at the last weekend, obviously. They're a tough team to beat. Bruno didn't have much time on the ball, and credit to that Lavia fella, the young lad in the midfield, top-class midfielder. I'd be very happy if we sign him when they go down, because unfortunately for Southampton, it looks like they're destined for relegation. They fought very well in the first half, but they've just got nothing up front. Even though we gifted them a very, very easy goal, they just didn't have any way to threaten us. You know, this performance, a lot like Everton's first half, we really, really were terrible, but it just shows that how good we are as a team now, that even when we play bad, we still score 3 goals and win, you know? And that's something that as Newcastle fans for a long, long time, we have not known. We have not had this for a very long time. So I have to give Southampton their credit. You know, they let us play wide. They let us run the channels. They were very solid and compact in the middle. Every time we tried to break into the box, they really sort of they put the fire out, so to speak. I've said the midfield too. Ward-Prowse is pretty anonymous, if I'm honest. I didn't really think he had the best game. He wasn't allowed to dictate, but then I'll give Joe Linton credit for that. However, that Lavia guy, I can't say enough about the kid. I think he's like 21, 22. Don't know what he'll cost. But, I mean, he's like that kind of Longstaff player, who, again, Longstaff we really missed today. I really feel that in those 2 games where he hasn't played, Villa and again today, you saw the problems that we have in our midfield when he doesn't play. You know,
Yes.
He's so much that we just don't see. You know, the running of the ball, off the ball, the positioning, blocking, frustrating. It allows Bruno to play. And every time he's not on the field, Bruno doesn't play to his best. And, going into next season, we're going to have to spend a lot of money to find a player that is going to be able to rotate in and out and do what Longstaff does. Because to be fair, everybody's been sleeping on that kid. And I think probably he would be, you can talk about all the other players, but in my opinion, I think Sean Longstaff at the end of the season is going to be my player of the season. He's been that good. And it's only been apparent how good he's been when he's not been in the team. We are a completely different team when Longstaff's in our side. I mean, don't get me wrong, we turned it on in the second half. We got our act together. I do think that Anthony Gordon is trying too hard. I've seen quite a lot of negative comments about him, and I can't get on board with these people that are just so negative. It's like this kid is trying too hard. You know what I mean? There are many times where he should have passed, but he's gone for the goal. Again, that's age, experience, and him getting used to the way that we play. He's desperate for a goal. He's desperate for the crowd to be on his side. And the problem is that when you try too hard, it doesn't come off for you. So I kind of feel sorry for him. Again, he was subbed early in this match. We did need a change. And obviously, changing the tactics, bringing Wilson on, it's just worked like an absolute dream again. I mean, Eddie Howe has to take the credit for it. Genius tactical change, genius. I mean, not afraid to actually do the hard decisions, make the change, really to push it forward. What do you think, Al?
I think you're saying everything is 100% right. We missed Sean Longstaff at the middle. We need at the first half. Our lines were far from each other. Mm-hmm. We allowed them to attack us from the middle on counter attack. At the halftime, our coach made a substitution. Gordon went out and Callum went in. This was the main thing which that changed the match, I think. I think شو اسمه المهاجم نسينا
ويلسون
مش ويلسون إيزاك. I think Isaac on the wing is very aggressive. It's very nice position for him. His passes, his wide passes are very nice. He is better than Gordon at the wing. Bruno, I think, was tired a little bit. He suffered. I think he suffered from his knee, from his ankle
injury.
Ankle. He's moving not 100%. I think.
I think also again the problem they have with Bruno is that he was looking for the runs. He was looking for movement, and that first half there wasn't any movement. I mean, we were static. Everyone was just stood there. They were waiting for Southampton to move and push up and make the gaps and make the space. And we're going to have this a lot more going forward, especially next season when teams are just going to sit back and we're going to have to find ways to break them down. Now, obviously, earlier in the season, we were then obviously drawing matches like this because we were struggling to find a way to break teams down.
We found the solution. We found solutions.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So we are finding those ways to actually win the games now, which is great. But the thing is that we really should be doing that from minute 1, not minute 45. 46, sorry. We really need to be doing that from the minute 1. I mean, we did it against Spurs, but then Spurs, seriously, I mean, they were all over the place. And obviously, I don't know if we're going to talk about that match at all because obviously we've not done a podcast for about a week or so now. But we do have the Everton and the Spurs match to sort of mention. But I don't know how you want to, how you want to break this down. Do we want to go through the goals in this match and then move on, or?
Well, no, we have topic, David.
Okay,
just now, I want to ask you all, both of you, and I will ask better in Arabic later, about how many points left do you think so we can guarantee the spot, the Champions League spot?
To be honest, I think it's ours already. I mean, I know I'm being a bit. Let's have a look at the table. What are we? So we're 11 points clear of Spurs. Yeah, I mean, we've got 5 games left. There's 15 games on the 15 points on the table. Come on, I mean, there's no way. There's just no way we're losing every single one of the next 5 matches. It's just not going to happen. Spurs, I mean, their last 5 matches, they've drawn 2, lost 2, won 1. I mean, their form just isn't there. Villa have lost today to Man United, and they basically gave up today. I mean, their stats, they had less than 30% possession. They didn't even have, I think they had 4 shots on target in the entire match. Pathetic. If they really, really wanted to have a run at Champions League.
Liverpool, I'm worried about.
I'm not interested in Liverpool at all. They're not in the conversation. They're 10 points back. Not at all. Don't care. They could literally play the next 8 matches of against blind men, and they're still not going to qualify for the Champions League. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen for them. Man United are not going to drop off that much. They really aren't.
I think we should look at Liverpool at this moment of the season, because Jurgen Klopp changed the system, the playing system, and their remaining matches are not so hard for them to win, and they are on winning. I think they will be in a good winning streak. So if we want to calculate how points we need to qualify to Champions League next season, we should look at Liverpool. I think Man United will qualify but the number 4 position is between Liverpool and Newcastle. And more than that, I will say Aston Villa will play Liverpool. They are in coming matches, and our game, our main game of the qualifying is against Brighton. I think.
يعني قصدك برايتون هي الحاسمه يا ألن.
يس.
انا بحاول شوي انجز عربي عشان المتابعين بس.
مظبوط. اوكي.
يعني قصدك برايتون هي اللي راح تحدد برايك ان ابطال اوروبا التاهل. صحيح 100%،
لانه بوصولنا الى هاي المباراه وكان الفارق مريح مع يعني مع ليفربول، واذا فزنا فيها راح يتاكد 100% برايي التاهل. يعني حتى مباراه تشيلسي يعني تعتبر اخر مباراه، بس هي مضمونه لازم تكون، يعني لانه تشيلسي منه يعني منه كثير اوضاعهم مش كثير منيحه يعني. بس وايضا اللي ممكن يعطينا دفعه معنويه كبيره هو المباراه ارسنال، اذا فزنا فيها فخلص يعني it open the road to the Champions League.
وعطينا برضو مانشستر سيتي اللقب اتوقع يعني مقدمه.
بالضبط. انا اشوف بعد ترى اكثر منافس لك ممكن انك تخاف منها الان ليفربول لا تبعد عن المنافسه ابد. هو اكثر منافس ممكن انه يحرجك الحين. ليفربول الحين في نسق متصاعد، عنده جدول سهل قدام. يمكن اتوقع استون فيلا هو الوحيد هو الفريق الوحيد الصعب باقي المباريات. بنفس الوقت انه ما في تعثرات الى الحين. تحس انه استعاد رتم الفريق، قدر يلقى النقطه اللي ممكن توصله للفوز في المباريات. جوتا رجع من الاصابه، اللاعب في مستوى ممتاز، مستوى متصاعد، حرفيا قاعد يرجع مستوياته الاخيره مع ليفربول. بدا يلقى نهج هجومي واضح. الوسط بدا يستعيد تركيزه بعد ما رجع تياغو. فانت عدوك الان تقريبا هو ليفربول. توتنهام اتوقع انه طلع من المنافسه حرفيا.
نتمنى اليوم يخلوا ليفربول يتعثر، واليوم هلا راح تبدا.
لو تعثر ليفربول اليوم انا اضمن لك انك انت راح تطلع.
طيب كم نقطه تتوقع نجيب؟ how many points you think?
من شوف
باقي 5 مباريات.
شوف ضد ارسنال انا اتوقع انه فوز صراحه. انت اذا فزت على ارسنال متاكد انك تجيب اقل شيء 9 نقاط من المباريات هذه كلها. 3 ون هذا انا متاكد منها.
3-9
اي 3 من 9 مباريات هذا اكيد. التعثر لو قلت في تعثر ضد برايتون مو ضد ارسنال. تفوز ضد ارسنال بس بتتعثر ضد برايتون. الباقي تقريبا ان شاء الله انه في
9.
اي تقريبا.
ديفيد حسب يعني هلا اوكي ديف اوكي ديف.
Yes, right.
How many points?
Well, look, historically, if you get 71 points, you're in the Champions League. Okay, we are 6 points. That's 2 wins from qualifying for the Champions League. Okay, we are 11 points ahead of Aston Villa and Spurs, with the same amount of games as Spurs and one more game than Villa. We are 12 points ahead of Liverpool. They have one more game than us, but we're 12 points. That means literally 8 of our players' legs need to fall off for us to be in a position where we lose that many games. We've only lost 4 games all season. We don't lose games. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. So we're not going to get caught. As I said after the Man United match when we beat them 2-0, we are finishing 3rd. The conversation for 4th is not including Newcastle United. The conversation for 4th is between Villa, Tottenham, Liverpool, if you say so. I don't think so. And Man United. Personally, if Liverpool go on a mad run and they win all of their next games, what does that give them? 6 games, 6 threes is 18. 18 points, that takes them up to 71 points. So basically, all we need is 2 wins.
Goal difference.
Exactly, and we're still going to have a goal difference. But you know, we only need 2 wins. If we get 3 wins, we cannot be caught. They cannot catch us. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. And if you look at our running, Leeds, But look, Arsenal last season, they came to St James's Park and lost badly when they needed to win. Right?
I think we need just 6 points.
6 points, Halas, and that's it. We're done. You know, again, we have to look at the form. Even if Liverpool go on a perfect run, they will not challenge us. They will be challenging Man United. And if Man United, even if Man United win 3 more games, Liverpool can't reach them. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. Liverpool at best will finish 5th. That's the best that they can do. And to be honest, after the way they started the season, that will be an amazing result for them because they were appalling. Terrible team. I mean, yes, as you mentioned before, Alan, Jurgen Klopp has changed the formation. He's copied Pep in a lot of ways by bringing, what's he called?
Alexander Arnold to the middle.
Bringing him more central, as they do to basically dictate more of a sort of quarterback role, which has worked very well for them. Obviously, you saw those long balls that they were playing in against us for Nunes that obviously caused us the problems, and why obviously they won. We gave them 6 points, guys. Next season, we cannot be giving Liverpool 6 points. Do you know what I mean? If we'd have won that game or drawn that game at Anfield, and we'd have actually played better at home, and if we'd have drawn both those matches, where would Liverpool be now? They'd be 4 points less off. They'd be on 49. They'd be 10th. Do you know what I mean? We cannot afford to keep giving teams like Liverpool 6 points. I mean, no one else has beaten us this season twice. Only them. You know, City. We drew with them once. They took 3 points off us at home at the Etihad, or the Empty-had, as they call it. But yeah, I mean, obviously you expect that from them. But, you know, there's only 3 teams. There's City, Arsenal, and us who have lost 4 times. The next is 7th. 7 losses, that's Man United. You know what I mean? It's very, very, very clear that we are the 3rd best team in the country. This season, Newcastle are the 3rd best team in the league. And there's nobody can argue about that. 3rd best goal difference. We've got the 3rd lowest in terms of goals lost, in terms of games lost. And by merit, we're 3rd on points. You know, nobody can say anything about that. And this is with a team 9 of this team that were on the field at the end of the Tottenham match was Steve Bruce's team that were going to be relegated. So whatever people say about us buying our way to this is rubbish. It's Eddie Howe. It's their team. It's the coaching. It's the motivation. It's the team spirit. It's everything that we've got because we've now got a united team. We've got all the fans with us. We've got the board of directors. We've got Ashworth. We've got Isles. We've got all these excellent professionals for the first time, I'd say in my lifetime. Because to be honest with you, even when Freddie Shepherd, we had the Keegan era, we had the Bobby Robson era, we never had such a professional organization behind the scenes. You know, right now we've got a team that is actually world class from start to finish. And yeah, that music is going to be played at St James's Park next season. Do you know what I mean? I'm really excited for the summer because obviously the new sponsorship deals come in and we're all going to start seeing how much money we're going to start spending. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be amazing, Leo.
Thank you, David, really. أنا كم تتوقع من نقطة؟
والله أنا برأيي ما بدي أتوقع نقاط لأنه أنا بحب أن نمشي مباراة game by game. We have to win our remaining matches. لازم نفوز بالمباريات القادمة كل مباراة بمباراة. بس اللي عجبني اليوم إنه الانتفاضة بالشوط الثاني هي بتأكد لك إنه الفريق عازم على التأهل إلى دوري الأبطال. يعني الفريق يلعب بكل يعني أنت شفنا الجميع كله يهاجم ما في خلاص ما كأنه مباراة فاينل جيم فور أس كأنه آخر مباراة لنا. أجريسيف هجوم عنيف 10 ركنيات يمكن بالمباراة كلها أو أكثر. الفريق خلص في عقلية الفوز يعني وكأن الفريق خلص شو ما صار نحن لازم نتأهل. هذا الهدف المنشود لنا حاليا.
وحتى لما يستقبل هدف أول برضه يعني ردة الفعل
صحيح. أنا كانت المدام بتقول لي بدكم تخسروا اليوم كانت زعلانة مني فبتقول لي اليوم بدكم تخسروا أنا بدي أدعي عليكم. أنا كنت ساكت قلت لها ما خلص هي بعد شوي اجى الجول طلعت هيك شو عم يصير ثاني ثالث لا باي باي انزلي على بيت اهلك. يعني
طيب.
ردة الفعل تحسن. انا كنت هادئ انا وعم بحضر المباراة رغم التاخر. يعني بالاول كنا نخاف من زمان ايام مايك اشلي ايام ستيف بروس. we afraid from lose. Now we are confident. Our confidence is high. Even we are down at beginning of the game. يعني حتى لو خسرنا تأخرنا بالنتيجة we will fight for the win.
Well, I mean, it's funny, right? Because obviously, why aren't the people in the press? Where is Steve Bruce's friends in the media now? Why aren't they asking him how he thinks about the man that got Bournemouth relegated? Yeah, is he taking that same group of players that he was getting relegated to Europe now? Yeah, is he? I think he is. Yeah. You know, yeah, nice one, Brucey. You know, well done, mate. So I was just looking at the league table. So we've got Leicester, Leeds, and Chelsea in the run-in. Obviously, play Arsenal, then Leeds away, then we play Brighton at home. I'm looking forward to the Brighton match. To be honest with you, I'm really excited for that because they are awesome to watch. Like seriously, obviously I love Newcastle, they're my team, but I love watching football. And right now, watching Brighton is a joy. That Mitoma kid, he is awesome. I would love to see him play for Newcastle. I don't think we'll get him. I don't think we'll go for him. But what a winger! Awesome. You know?
Not to see Brighton. I want to see how Eddie Howe will play. What will he do for our team to win?
Exactly.
I think they beat 12-6-0, right? Yesterday.
Yes.
Well, so yeah. Well, they channeled their inner Newcastle, didn't they?
6 without Marsh, without Mitoma.
At the first half.
And I think it's gonna be like as Alan said, it's the game defined and guarantee us the Champions League. Lads, we would like to talk about because I have many topics to cover. We want to talk about the sponsorship. We'll talk in Arabic. In Arabic, Alan and Badr. But first, if you have something, David, to say before we go to Arabic.
Well, obviously, I mean, they've said it's not a Saudi company, so not sure. I don't know if it's going to be Neom are going to take, Noon are going to take it as the front sponsor as well as the arm. Not sure. It could be Qatar Airways. It could be, but they said it's not going to be a Saudi company, so I don't know if it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be Saudia. It might be Etihad. It might be Emirates. It could be a bank. I don't know. I mean, it could be QNB. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, the relationship between Qatar and Saudi is good right now. So obviously, you know, there's also talk the PIF are buying a stake in beIN Sport. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about that, but I've heard this rumor going around. So I mean,
it's going around.
Yeah, right. So I guess they're going to. So I mean, who knows? It might even be beIN Sport. Do you know what I mean? The chance but obviously it's 25 million a year. Obviously, I assume that will be something that will increase as obviously our profile increases. But 25 million a year is excellent because obviously what that does is then that opens us up to various other revenue streams, and obviously means that obviously we stake ourselves in that like level of legitimacy. Whereas obviously, you know, your Man Uniteds and your Arsenals, they're getting like around about 40 to 50 on their sponsorship deal. So we're not going out of, it's not unacceptable or unrealistic because, you know, unfortunately we can't just like turn around and use Aramco to have like a $400 million a year sponsorship, which would be wicked, but obviously that doesn't comply with the rules. But yeah, I think it's a good thing because obviously it allows us to have those extra revenue streams. And what it does is it unlocks a lot of other additional revenue. So it's not just that 25 million a year. You know what I mean? What it does is it then allows us to explore other avenues and build on that. So that becomes like the core of our sponsorship. And then obviously we can then have obviously other sponsors and tiers off that. ultimately what it means is that with the sort of 145, 150 million pounds sterling for finishing third in the league, plus the 25 million for the sponsorship for this, obviously then there'll be other things like naming rights for the St James's Park. We have to look at naming rights for the training ground. The training ground and also the training kit will also get a separate sponsor. Saudia, I believe, will become our official airline partner because obviously that's a separate sponsorship deal. So we can have all of these other things in place
Maybe
that will
stadium.
all add up to different things. Hey, oh, no, not the stadium, but I mean, if you look at Man United, Turkish Airlines is their official airline sponsor. So when they fly to Europe, they fly on a Turkish Airlines plane. So basically, it's just all sponsorship like that. So we'll have an official partnership. I mean, Man United have got a tractor sponsorship partner. A tractor. Do you know what I mean? So all their tractors at the training ground that cut their grass are this manufacturer tractor. Do you know what I mean? So again, we'll have a watch sponsor. We'll have a sponsor of this, sponsor of that, sponsor of everything. We've got what's it called? The bald hair replacement fella from Turkey, haven't we? The official hair transplant sponsor. So we'll be doing all these kinds of crazy deals, which means that we should have in the region of about 250,000, 250 million to spend on players this summer. So,
David, the question is, before we go to discuss this,
who do I think it is?
The question is, why not Saudi company? This is the main question.
Again, I think, to be honest with you, it's a case that obviously Newcastle, for some reason, right, is the team that every other club is afraid of. Do you know what I mean? We have got whereas obviously Chelsea have bought their way into the top six, whereas obviously Man City have done the same thing. I don't think people understand how forceful and how much power having a fan base like Newcastle United like other teams fear us for that. So when we actually turn around and we can then obviously flex our muscles financially in the way that obviously we can, it doesn't look good. Like, it's okay for Man City to have everything belonging to Abu Dhabi, Etihad Stadium, Etihad front and shirt sponsor, on and on and on. If we start doing that, all that's going to happen is everyone's going to complain. It's going to be, we're going to have all those bleeding left heart liberal wimps from Amnesty International going, it's Saudi Arabia, they're so evil. all this nonsense on and on and on, but they weren't saying anything when Roman Abramovich and, all that stuff with Chelsea and Putin was, disappearing people left and right in Russia. No conversation there. Do you know what I mean? And all these things, nobody's saying anything about that. But obviously, as soon as it's Newcastle United, all of a sudden, we the fans who've got no control over these things. And then all of a sudden, it's supposed to be like standing up and going, oh, this is terrible. When all we want to do is watch our team play good football. Do you know what I mean? Speak to the politicians, the people in charge. They're the people making those decisions. We just want to have a good football team. That's it. Do you know what I mean? So I think basically it's very smart of our board, because what we're doing is we're bringing in sponsors from countries that are not Saudi, so that there's nothing. This is what I love about Newcastle right now. Even back in those days with Keegan, with the the Shepherds and the Halls and everything, there was always controversy. Tino Asprilla having most raging house parties that went from Thursday to Sunday. Do you know what I mean? Just always controversy around the team. Bellamy and Dyer having a fist fight on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Every single week there was another story about Newcastle. Boyer, sorry. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Lee Boyer. So, but, and there was always something. There was always some story about Newcastle United off the pitch. Right now, everything is boring at Newcastle. Everything is professional. It's basically like we're being ran by bankers. Boring, sensible people. And the press haven't got any stories. There's no gossip. There's no sensationalism. Eddie Howe is a professional when he does his interviews. We're going about our business in a very professional manner, and the press hate it. They hate it. They cannot find a story that will divide us because everybody's united together. It's awesome. And long may it continue. That's why I'm saying they're very, very smart in the boardroom by bringing in all these sponsors that aren't directly related to Saudi. So there's not even one word, one reporter can say, oh, they're just buying it. They're just spending all their own money, all their own companies, blah, 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 blah. None of that. So they haven't got a story to print. It's lovely. And it's so sweet because all that's happening is now, like with Tottenham, That match, in the first 20 minutes, we took them apart. And what did the press do? They talked about how bad Spurs were. They never actually gave us the credit for destroying a team in 5th. Man City might have the record for beating a team by 5 goals faster, but that was Watford, who were in 19th, and they got relegated that season. Do you know what I mean? Not a team that they were competing for the Champions League.
Top 6, top 7.
Exactly. I mean, at the time, Spurs were 5th. They were our direct rivals. And this is what I'm saying. So sorry I've meandered off points, but it's all connected, you know? And when it comes to those sponsorship deals, by not having it as a Saudi company, yet again, it just takes away the power of the press. It takes away their gossip and their, all that negativity. Bravo. Very smart business again. It's just great being run by a very, very intellectual, very smart businesswoman in Amanda Staveley, a very, very, very smart businessman in Mehrdad Gadusi.
Intelligence.
Very intelligent. And then having the 2 very brilliant people on board in Dan Ashworth on the football side and obviously Mr. Isles on the commercial side. That man built Atlanta from the ground up. It was a brand new team. He literally picked the strip. He picked the colors. He picked the nickname. He built that team from the ground up. This man is an absolute marketing and commercial genius, and long may it continue. You know
who's?
What's his name? Mr. Isles. That's our commercial director.
Darren.
Darren Isles. Yeah, Darren Isles. Isles. Yeah, gentlemen. I call him Isles, but his name might be Eels. Darren Isles.
Elias.
Exactly in Arabic.
Thank you, David, for this explanation. And we're going to discuss this in Arabic. And if there is something new, we will new about this. We will translate it as well. طبعا احنا الآن سألونا كثير إنه وش صار على موضوع الرعاية. طبعا هذه الأسئلة جت لما جاء خبر التايمز إنه فيه عرض تمت الموافقة عليه ب25 مليون، وإنه الشركة ليست سعودية أو من الشرق الأوسط. قالوا ما قالوا على الأغلب إنها ما تكون سعودية. طبعا طول بالك الفكرة كانوا يقولون يعني شفنا احنا صندوق كلمة مثلا صندوق الاستثمارات كلمة أعلن شراكة وشيء قالوا إيه خلاص هذا خبر هذا حصري هذا الموضوع هو مثلا زي الطيران. فاكر يا ألن؟
صحيح.
قالوا الطيران خلاص لا هي هذه الأمور فيها يعني فيها كثير ممكن تكون فعلا كانت هي بعد تغيرت ما ندري.
لا تبعات كثيرة.
إيه السؤال اللي الجميع سأله الآن إنه ليش ما هي سعودية؟ سأل ديفيد نفس الجواب في نيوكاسل، نفس الجواب اللي تقريبا حصلت عليه هنا في السعودية. الرأي هذا مجرد رأي إنه لتجاوز الشبهات. يعني نيوكاسل الآن يقدر يأخذ أكثر من 25 مليون من شركة سعودية، لكن هذا راح يفتح باب شبهات إنه ليش طيب أكيد في أشياء أكيد في عقود تحت الطاولة ومن هذا الكلام. عشان كذا راحوا لجهات أو يعني شركات راعية غير سعودية. طبعا أتكلم عنه نون 50% أعتقد سعودي 50% إماراتي. فنفس الشيء متوقع من الشركة مثلا القادمة ممكن تكون في نسبة مو شرط كاملة. طبعا طلع اسم إعمار، شركة إعمار. هذا الموضة الآن يعني هذا الخبر الساحق.
طبعا هي اللي ماسكة برج خليفة.
اي انا ما اعرف مين يقدر يقول. انا الان ما عرفت وبسال بعد شوي ديفيد انه ليش اعمار اللي جت. طبعا الكلام اللي انقال في نيوكاسل انه اعمار علشان اصلا الطقم نيوكاسل الثاني الاصفر والذهبي والازرق بيقولون انه يعني قالوا انه اصلا تم اختياره عشان اعمار انه كان في خطه بس لما يخلصون من فن دقيقه الان بعطيك الحين المجال بس انا عشان معلومات على نفس لكن لما بحثت أنا في الموضوع لقيت إن الشعار تغير أصلاً. اللون صار من 2004 ل 2016 كان هو الأصفر والأزرق اللي على لون تيشيرت نيوكاسل. وأنا أشوفه مو منطقي يعني، بس تعرف لما يكون ما في معلومة الجميع يبحث من جميع يعني مو معقول أنا بغير فريق عشان شعار شركة يعني. بس أنا سخيف الموضوع بس أنا ذكرته علشان انتشر في نيوكاسل كثير وبسأل ديفيد عنها بعد شوي. الشعار الآن أصلاً أصبح رمزي. ايه طيب فعلى الاغلب الحين انا بسالك ايش رايك هذا الموضوع يا بدر؟ بعدين بروح الان بعدين بروح الدين.
طيب ممتاز. بس بعقب اول شيء على كلام ديفيد تو عن ارامكو. انا اقول مستحيل الان ارامكو تدخل الموضوع، لان اصلا لو بتدفع ارامكو، لو بتجيب ارامكو بتدفع فلوس عليها كلام ولا ما راح تدخل. فالمبلغ اذا كان مرتفع مستحيل تجيك ارامكو الا اذا تخلصت من كم شركه مثل 8 وغيرها. ثاني شيء
يعني قصدك ارامكو تقدر تدفع مبلغ
ممكن تدخل، بس متى؟ اذا خلصت من الرعايات اللي عندك اللي انت بتورط معهم، ما قدرت تفسخ التعاقد معهم. هنا ممكن لو قدرت تخلص منهم ممكن تدخل ارامكو.
ليش يعني؟
على اساس مبلغ يصير فيه توازن بالمبالغ، فهمت؟ يصير فيه بالانس شوي. الان اتوقع ممكن يا عمار. شوف انا بعطيك شيء. في الدوري السعودي هنا كان في عندك اعمار، كان في عندك نون، انسحبت نون فجاه، انسحبت اعمار فجاه. ليش انسحبت؟ دخل بدالها روشن. شفنا نون يوم انسحبت على طول راحت نيوكاسل، صح؟ انسحبت اعمار من الهلال، جاب بدالها روشن.
كانوا بدهم يعمروا الملعب، ما كانوا مشان اعمار الملعب، ما هيك
يبونها كلها نيوكاسل.
يعني هذا اتفاق،
هذا
ينسحبوا من هنا.
توقع، مو معلومه، توقع.
انا سمعت خبر
انا هذا اللي سمعته. اي بالضبط، انه ممكن صدق انه يكون فيه.
Hello lads,
هو
alright.
ويلكم
انا ممكن اتوقع بشكل عام انه انسحاب نون وانسحاب اعمار من الهلال ومن الاتحاد على اساس انه راح نيوكاسل يكون في مكان واحد، فهمت؟ بدل ما اصعب على نفسي واروح ادور شركات سعوديه، لا هذول الشركات اصلا هم يبغون يدعموني اصلا، وفي اتفاقيات معهم وفيه علاقه وطيده يعني معهم.
وجربوا يعني رعايه اتفاقيه بعدين طوروها.
وغير كذا نيوكاسل عارفين السوق السعودي، عارفين انه قوه السوق السعودي،
واسهل في التفاهم، يعني تقلل المشاكل، يصير في تفاهم اكبر بدل ما اجيب شركه اجنبيه يصير فيها اشكاليات.
بالضبط. بعدين وين كان مكان اعمار؟ وين كان مكان الهلال؟ الصدق صح ولا لا؟
طيب ليش اعمار اللي يتكلموا عنها الناس؟ ليش الاشاعات؟
لانها اعلى مبلغ، معك برج خليفه، معك مشاريع كبيره.
25 مليون قالوا ان هي اقل من التوب 6. هذا الحين بسال انا ديفيد وإسفالدس about it. بس شوف رايك يا ألين. قالوا طبعا انه 25 مليون عشان تصير اقل من التوب 6 واكثر من باقي الفرق.
100% في جدول، في تشارت انه كان موجود بس انا ما سيفته على تليفوني. حطوا انه نحن مثل ما زي ما تكلمت انه نحن سابع اعلى عقد رعايه خارج التوب 6، يعني اول اعلى واحد خارج التوب 6 25، واللي بعدنا 18 واللي قبلنا 40.
يعني انت السابع
مليون. السابع يمكن. في 6 قبلنا عندهم عقود رعايه اعلى منا، والباقي نحن اعلى منهم. بس هلا هي شركه اعمار شركه معروفه يعني، وتطوير عقاري على مستوى العالم يعني. هلا انا بالنسبه لي موضوع الرعايه موضوع دقيق وما بظن يكون فيه، يعني بظن انه موضوع سري، يعني ما راح يكون في شيء علني. هذه عباره عن اشاعات، هي الاخبار.
جت اشاعه انه ممكن نون يصير في الصدر، بس ما متوقع.
والله ما اتوقع.
كل شيء ممكن، كل شيء ممكن
يعني. نون يعني احنا ما ودي يعني شركاء، ما ودي اقول كلام يعني وحاسب عليه بعدين، بس اعتقد نون يعني متحمسه جايه بقوه يعني. فهل تتوقع تستمر في يعني
اذا رفعوا المبلغ يكون في الصدر؟ الحين لا 7 مليون لا
25 مليون يعني 25 مليون ما تدفع اعمار. ليش ما تدفع اكثر؟
ما اتوقع شركه مثل نون ما اتوقع.
طيب ليش اعمار ما دفعت اكثر؟ هم قالوا نبغى نصير اقل من التوب 6.
طيب لو دفعت
علشان ما يصير فيه تجاوز.
لا خلي سؤالك، لو دفعت اكثر من 25 مليون هل بيكون في احراج؟
ما في احراج، هذه قوانين.
لا بيكون في مشكله بالقوانين ولا لا؟
ما ادري. I will ask David this question. David, why 25? Okay, we understand, and the same reason you talk about, same reason about here in Saudi Arabia, about that we wouldn't like not to be suspicious and try to avoid like Manchester City being facing every time with a case or something. We want to be away from this. نبغى نبعد كثير عن شوف احنا مانشستر سيتي كل شوي يصير في عندهم يحكونهم في قضيه وكذا، احنا نحاول نبعد عن هذا الشيء. David, why 25? And like to also
okay, So what you're seeing is obviously, you've got your classic, big teams, as they keep being called, the big six. And obviously that's a conversation for another day. But if you think about it, you take the core of those teams: Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool. Okay, those three have consistently played Champions League football over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Okay, and because they've got that level of competition regularly, they are then able to say to their sponsors, we are definitely going to be in Europe. We are this big brand. Man United has more fans around the world, even though they're plastic fans. They have more fans around the world that will buy those shirts. Okay. So obviously for any sponsor, whether it's Chevrolet or TeamView or whoever it is that actually they're sponsored by them right now, those people know that their brand is going to be on that shirt, bought by people in Nigeria, in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, in Mumbai, India, in Tokyo, wherever. Do you know what I mean? So they can then dictate a price that is considerably higher than we are able to at the moment. Because obviously our...
why إعمار بين يعني spread like a rumor?
Well, again, what you have to remember is that obviously, our previous owner completely and utterly destroyed Newcastle as a brand. Okay. So before he took over, our revenue stream was greater than Tottenham Hotspur. Okay. Now, today, when PAF and the Staveley Group came in, Spurs' revenue was 10 times more than Newcastle United's, because he'd absolutely ruined the brand of Newcastle United. Basically, it was Sports Direct FC. There was no money coming in terms of sponsorship. The stadium he was paying us, he paid $1 million for 3 years. That's insulting. You know what I mean? For a club in the Premier League, even a team like in Bournemouth with 11,000 capacity, their stadium gets way, way, way more sponsorship than that does per year. And Mike Ashley, he bought the club to promote his own company. I get that. And then obviously the way that everything went south and sour between the fans, the club and him, I understand why he did what he did. And we've had those conversations. But the fact of the matter is that we are having to rebuild our commercial brand as a club from literally zero, And obviously Eddie Howe and everything we're doing on the pitch is turning us into a product that other brands want to be associated with. But right now, it's like saying, you're not going to go from being a guy who has just got a reasonably good job. You're not going to walk straight up to a supermodel and go, hey, darling, how you doing? You know what I mean? How you doing? You're going to go and you're going to talk to a few girls that are reasonably good looking first, get your confidence up, date them for a while, then you move on to the hot girls. You know what I mean? That way, that's basically what we're doing. But 2 seasons into the Champions League.
Step by step.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And then obviously when we do this tour in the United States in the summer, I'm sure next year we'll probably go to Asia, China, Singapore, do a tour out there. You know what I mean? Or what'll happen is that Saudi will have a summer tournament. Well, probably not because the weather sucks, but something like that, where they'll basically sponsor something where they'll have 1 or 2 clubs from Saudi, and then they'll have Arsenal or Man City or whoever, and we'll end up playing a tournament in Southeast Asia or Australia or somewhere like that. And then obviously that will then again build the brand, and we'll go again and again and again. It'll step up. And as I said, so basically we can't just be, again, it would be quite easy, like I said, for them to turn around and just say, okay, how much is the most expensive shirt sponsorship deal? How much is the number one earner? Man United or Man City? How much are they earning? 50 million a year? All right. Our shirt sponsor is 45 million. The amount of bad press that we will get because of that is it's just not worth it. And again, we're going through this period in time where in the UK right now, the government is bringing in an independent financial regulator to start regulating football teams. There's an amazing podcast that I recommend people listen to. It's called The Price of Football. It's by the guy who's a lecturer of accounting and a radio comedian, and they talk all about football finances. It's genius. They talk about all the sponsorship deals. They talked about Man United's leveraged buyout, how the debt works, about Spurs and their new stadium, obviously about our spending power, all these things. But also they talk about lower leagues as well, how it works in non-league football, and how most teams in the Championship actually operate at a loss, and they only survive because of our the payments from the Premier League that go down to them, and a lot of them are very, very close to going bankrupt most of the time. So it talks about all these things. It's very, very interesting. So you get a real good understanding of the actual finances of the sport like that, and it's very clear that what we're trying to do right now is obviously with Man City, facing 100 charges of potentially, obviously they say they've done nothing wrong. And I'm sure they've got very good lawyers and they will take that to court. And I'm sure they will probably make sure most of them don't stick. What Chelsea have done this year with all of their crazy spending, they are going to have to answer to that. They're going to have to sell at least 11 players for good money in the summer. That's not easy to do, because right now they've got 32 full-time professional players. To get rid of that many players for money that they want to sell them for to clubs that actually can afford to buy them, because let's look at things right now. I mean, if you look at Italian football, they're skint. They've got no money. Do you know what I mean? The same as Spain. There's only Real Madrid, who managed to find a couple of $100 million down the back of the sofa every couple of years. You know what I mean? No one seems to complain about that. But Barcelona, financial disaster,
David, sorry to interrupt. Are you saying that Newcastle watch closely the mistake of Manchester City sponsorship deals?
Completely. I mean, basically what they're doing is
how they can get this information?
Well, I mean, it's the thing is, because all of these companies, if you go onto Companies House in the UK, you find out all the company information. Okay, so it's all public record. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's private information. Every company that is registered in the UK is a PLC or an LLC. You can go on to Companies House and find out all about them. I mean, this takes me on to another subject that I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but this takes me on to PGMOL, who are the professional game match day officials. These people are not the FA. They are not the Premier League, and they are not the English Football League. They are a private limited company. And if I was Brighton, the way that their officials cheated them against Spurs, I would have my lawyers suing the PGMOL, because they're a private company and they make millions of pounds every year to officiate those games. And their job is to make sure that match day officials do their job properly. Now, they've admitted themselves. They sent Newcastle a letter and they sent West Ham a letter earlier this season saying, we made mistakes that cost you points. Okay? That, in the court of law, that's an open and shut case. Their job, they failed to do their job. It cost Newcastle United points. If we didn't qualify for the Champions League by 2 points because we lost that game where Joe Willett was pushed in the back and they gave a free kick to the goalkeeper instead of a penalty or a goal to us. If we lost, exactly right, against Palace. If we finished 5th instead of 4th by less than 2 points, imagine the amount of money we would lose. We wouldn't be able to sign those top players because we're not in the Champions League. We wouldn't have the 40 odd million from playing in the Champions League. If I was on the board of directors of Newcastle United, immediately I would be on to Nick DeMarco, our lawyer, and saying, get a lawsuit in against them because they're wrong. But that's me going off on a tangent. We'll have a conversation about that on another podcast, because I've written to everybody about that. I've written to TalkSport. I've written to Sky Sports News. I've emailed everybody. I've tweeted everybody. I've tweeted Alan Shearer. I've tweeted everybody. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that is a private company. Now, going back to, as I said, finances, you can see basically when they submit their accounts, how much they've lost, how much they've made in profits, where that money has come from, whether it's match day earnings, whether it's commercial earnings, and which sector those commercial earnings are. Now, the worst club in Europe for this is Barcelona. They're unbelievable. How they aren't being fined and banned and points deducted, I don't know. It's an absolute scam. Something very, very bad is going on in the La Liga. Number 2, Paris Saint-Germain. You have 3 of the largest superstars in the sport playing in your team. Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi. And you lose 600 million. How? How are you losing that much money? And how is that allowed? Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, but the French league, really.
Money is talking.
French journalist, we will have her soon. So we can join. You can join us, David, for discussion.
Happily, because I'm sure they'll be saying exactly the same as me.
صحفية فرنسية راح نتكلم حلقة خاصة عن مشاكل باريس سان جيرمان. شوف يعني الكرة الفرنسية.
You know, because obviously we've got quite a lot of close ties to PSG. You know, I mean, we bought David Ginola from PSG, for example. Historically, we had a good relationship with them. However, obviously, you know, in recent years, it's just not good. I mean, it's essentially how not to run a football club. You know, they don't have the revenues. Nobody watches that in comparison to the Premier League. When you look at the numbers of people watching, the sponsorship and revenue streams are just not there. Yeah, they're still spending like they're a team like a Man United or a Chelsea. This can't continue. You know, again, I think that because obviously you have this, you know, because you have this situation where FIFA is French, you know, and because of that, they kind of like want to have a French team that's influential and significant, and obviously how important, you know, Paris Saint-Germain is to Paris, with obviously having the Arc de Triomphe, the Eiffel Tower as their logo, and being so closely related to the branding of Paris as a commercial entity. You know, all these things seem to actually go for it. But again, I mean, it's not good. It really isn't. In terms of like stadium, St. James's Park, we saw obviously what happened when Mike Ashley tried to change the name of St. James's Park
for Direct Arena.
Yeah. Well, that went well, didn't it? You know, I mean, obviously people were going to spray paint St. James's Park back on the wall. They took it off. But I mean, I think basically what we'll see is that it will be one of those like soft namings. So it will be Saudia at St. James's Park. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. So it'll still be St. James's Park. But also, again, the difference is now that the owners and the people running our club are doing it for the best interest of the club. The money will go back into the team, and it's for the best. It's the best interest of the club. It's not something that they're just doing.
Infrastructure.
To upset the fans.
Infrastructure.
Exactly.
David,
Exactly.
regarding this question, you answered just now. The naming right should be after the expansion, or doesn't matter?
To be honest, it really doesn't matter. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you know, everybody watches the football. When a match on TV is at St. James's Park and you hear that crowd, any brand will want to be associated with that.
Yes.
I mean, my friends obviously that still go to the match because obviously they're lucky enough to still live in Newcastle. Obviously, as we're in the Middle East, so we don't get the chance so much. You know, the Tottenham match, my friend said, you know, he came out and his ears were ringing. He said he thought he'd been in a nightclub. It was the loudest it's been for a long time. He said it was crazy. He said it was like the Barcelona match. It was like the first half of the Barcelona match when we were 3-0 up, you know. And I remember those days when I was a teenager going, you know, and like in my early 20s going to the match when it was just crazy, the atmosphere, you know, wild, the electric. You would just be excited before you'd even got in the ground. Half the time you wouldn't even remember walking to the ground. It was as though you were floating, you know. You were just so excited. All the hairs on my arms are standing up just thinking about it, you know, the electric atmosphere that you get. And I mean, I've been to, totally buzzing. I mean, I've been to most grounds in the UK. You know, I mean, sorry, in England. I mean, I've been to, like, you know, as I said, both Parkhead and Ibrox for Old Firm derbies. That's wild. That's some seriously intense stuff. Really, really amazing atmosphere. But in terms of like every day, obviously apart from during the Ashley years, but I mean, back during the days when we were actually, the fans were engaged, you know, Newcastle's a hell of a place to come. You know, you don't want to be in a away club.
At the first half, we didn't so the fans.
I think, to be honest with you, people
they were so soft at the first time. I at the second, as you say.
I put that down to two things. First of all, I think there was a bit of like arrogance because obviously
that's why we didn't. That's why we didn't play good at the first half.
Yeah,
because
I think
the fans wasn't
fully up for it. Yeah, they weren't up for it. I think I said there's two things. First of all, they're bottom of the table. We thought it was going to be a lot easier. Obviously, after our last home game against Spurs, we thought we'd be 4-0 up in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Which was a bit of arrogance by the crowd. And number two, you've got to remember it's a 2:00 in the afternoon kickoff. Now, obviously, you're lovely, sober Muslim gentlemen, so you don't quite understand what that means. But if you look as if you're an average dad or someone like that, and you're going out to the match, you're going to get into town about 12:00. You've only got an hour or so to have a few pints. But obviously, if it's an evening match and everyone goes straight out after work at 5:00 and the match kicks off at 8, you've got 3 hours of drinking. If you've got 50. Exactly. If you've got 50,000 Geordies.
I want to say something, but in Arabic. في عندنا مشكلة واضحة مرة الموسم هذا بالذات يعني مع نيوكاسل بالذات. حاشرين مع التوب 6 مشاكلهم قواعدهم يعني. طيب أنت ما فكرت يا الاتحاد قبل ما تقول القواعد حقتك وتجدد القواعد حقتك حقت الإعلانات؟ طيب ما فكرت بتاريخ النادي أصلاً؟ تاريخ نادي نيوكاسل. قارن بين نيوكاسل وبين توتنهام. حلو. شوف الفرق بين البطولات. شوف من الأفضل. شوف الجماهيرية. نفس الشيء ترى. بس نيوكاسل أفضل من ناحية البطولات ترى. طب ليش ما تقارنها بناحية البطولات؟ ترى في يوم من الأيام كان نيوكاسل كان يقارع مانشستر يونايتد من ناحية الترتيب أكثر من موسم. كان ياخذ بطولات دوري يعني. أنت عندك نادي تاريخي مو بأي نادي مو بأي كلام. توتنهام فريق سيء.
فهمت عليك.
فريق صغير يعتبر مو كبير يعني. ما عنده بطولات. ما متى آخر بطولة جاب؟
فهمت عليك. أنا بسأل ديفيد هذا السؤال. بسأل ديفيد هذا السؤال. بقول رأيي على الموضوع. هو الموضوع متى ربحوا ماديا؟ لما ربح ماديا الفترة الأخيرة صار خلاص اللي ربحوا يبون يحافظون أو يزيدون مبالغهم. زمان ما كانت في المبالغ. عشان كذا يعني الحين الموضوع بس في الإنجازات الأخيرة ما حد بيرجع كثير مرة للتاريخ لأنه ما كان الموضوع مادي بالدرجة البحتة زي الآن.
عشان كذا أنا
خلينا نشوف رأي ديفيد.
وبعدها نقطة ثانية بعد أهلنا الحين الأبطال تمام. بعد الأبطال أنت عندك إيرادات كثيرة من الأبطال ملايين مثل ما قال. أنت الحين وصلت إيرادتك وصلت من أول موسم بعد الاستثمار أنت وصلت لهدفك الأبطال المركز الثالث شيء خرافي موسم واحد. طيب ليش ما يتم تأجيل يعني سالفة الإعلانات هذه كاملة إعمار ما إعمار نون والكلام هذا كله ليش ما يتم تأجيل الموسم الجاي بحيث إنك تغير القواعد خلاص أنت فريق كبير الحين.
ما تحسب
ولا
أصلا لسه ما تقرر شيء لسه ما تقرر شيء ما في شيء رسمي يعني
أدري
يعني بعد ما طلع شيء هذا كله كلام هذا كله كلام الفريق نادي الإدارة بتعرف هي بتعرف الوقت المناسب لهالأمور هاي كلها وانت ممكن فجأة بين ليلة وضحاها تشوف اعلان عرفت اعلان انه خلص صار عندنا هيدا سبونسر او كذا.
اي انا اقصد ليش الاعلان ما يكون الموسم الجاي
بعد ما ضروري
هلا انجازك فهمت.
هلا شركة فن 88 يمكن
اي بالضبط.
طيب ديفيد بدر question is about the changing of the rules of the advertisement. You know the Premier League they're changing the rules after the takeover. So he comparing that, for example, between Newcastle and Tottenham, Newcastle by history is bigger than Tottenham. Why the big six thinking about this rules? I answer better that the top six lately in the last 30 years they bring so much money that like more than in the 50s and the 60s doesn't compare like now taking money from advertisements. It just happened the last 20 years. So this is a better concern if you can elaborate.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if you look back, the reason that the Premier League happened was because English football needed to rebrand. Obviously, we had the Heysel disaster where Liverpool were involved in a tragedy in the European competition where a wall collapsed and killed several fans. This banned all English teams from playing in Europe. And it was, we weren't allowed to play in Europe. This is why you saw people like David Platt, Paul Gascoigne, and various others go and play in Italy. At the time, obviously, the Italian football, allegedly, football clubs were owned and controlled by the Italian mafia families. So this is why you started seeing people like Roberto Baggio being sold for like 9 million when, there was no one being sold for more than £1 million. So Italian football was huge at the time. English teams were banned from Europe, and there just wasn't, and English football wasn't attractive. It was a very physical game. The pitches were terrible. You have to remember that it was, we had cages around the pitches, so that basically the fans were separated. There was a lot of fan violence. It wasn't a very nice thing to go and be a part of. Obviously, when there was a fire at the Bradford Stadium, which led to obviously a huge change of the rules by the government, and that led to all-seater stadiums. And that was when obviously Sky B, the big broadcaster, stepped in and offered the Premier League money to start this whole new type of football with a new league. Obviously, we had 24 teams to start with, I think it was, but that obviously was then reduced to 20. But what it meant was that at the same time as that was happening, obviously Europe still had its problems. There was still violence in Italy and Germany and various other clubs and various other leagues. However, those leagues, controlled by, as I said, in Italy, allegedly, mafia families and things like that, with Juventus, they didn't want to share their TV rights and money with the likes of Elche, Lecce, all these smaller companies, clubs like Sampdoria. And again, in Spain, you had Real Madrid, Barcelona, greedy, didn't want to share with people like Sevilla and all these smaller clubs. And because of that, the leagues became very, very segregated. So then you had two very big teams at the top in Spain, 2 or 3 big teams in the top in Italy. And then obviously you find out that, Moggi, the former director of football at Juventus, was bribing officials, referees, and then obviously was banned from football just to ensure that they kept winning. And they kept obviously winning the tournament to then keep them in Europe, to keep the money coming in, which allowed them to obviously then do a lot of creative accounting, shall we say. And the same thing has happened in Germany, where, you've got Bayern Munich have won the league 10 times out of 10 in the last 10 years. It's not a competition, it's a procession. Do you know what I mean? What's the point? And all of these things has led to a point where you've got Real Madrid fans complaining that, oh, there's already a European Super League. It's called the Premier League. No, my friends. Your business models have failed. You were greedy. You have caused the demise of your own leagues. We in Britain, in England, said to all the teams, Bournemouth, Fulham, look at Fulham this season. Amazing. They were challenging for Europe earlier this season. They were a brilliant team. And if obviously Mitrovic hadn't have punched the referee, they would still be in a position where they would be much more competitive. But you see, the problem is that we went and split the money reasonably on a meritocracy basis. So where you finish is more money you get. The more the better you play, the more money you deserve. Period. Then obviously what that does is that attracts more sponsorship. The problem we have is that obviously when you have a group of teams at the top that then do qualify for the Champions League, which is so much more money than the Europa League. If you look at how much money that they earn, it's 15 million just to be in the group stages of the Champions League. And it's 2 million for each time you win in the Champions League. So if you qualify for the knockout stages, you already have 25 to 30 million extra dollars per season from a team that finishes 5th, for example. Now, if you go all the way to the final and win or lose the final of the Europa League, okay, right? If you go all the way to the final of the Europa League, you're only going to make 15 million for 8 extra matches. It's not the same. It really isn't. So making that top 4 consistently has allowed teams like Man United to be terrible, still have the biggest wage group in the league, compared to even bigger than Man City or on par with Man City. They have a huge wage budget, but because they've had that time in the Champions League and they have these revenue streams, because they're such a global power, it allows them to keep competing at the top for those big teams, those big players. Whereas Man City qualifies every single year for the Champions League, either by winning the league or finishing 2nd. And that allows them to keep on paying the top dollars. Now, yes, obviously they've got 100 charges, but if you look at when those charges were from, it was before they were consistently in that the top 1 or 2 positions. It was from like 10 years ago. So obviously they're going to have to answer that. I'm sure their lawyers have got answers for that. And obviously, we'll have to see how that all plays out. But the reason that everyone in Europe is complaining about the Premier League is because Bournemouth, even teams lower down, a team like you saw what Notts Forest did in the transfer market. They signed 20-odd players because they can afford to, because they know for a fact that they're going to get 80 to 100 million in TV rights, TV for their portion of the TV deal, and obviously from just staying in the league. Is it Notts Forest's fault that Real Madrid didn't do the same deal with their league? Absolutely not. And like I keep saying, last time I checked, this is free market capitalism. This is how it works. This is a free market where we as a league got together and we negotiate with beIN Sport, with BT, with all of the other big broadcasters around the world. How much money are you going to pay us for our product, the Premier League? Okay, the most exciting league on the planet, the most competitive league on the planet. Yeah, where 17th can beat Man City. Yeah, why is that? Because you have good players want to play in the Premier League. Good players don't want to go and play for Valladolid. Do you know what I mean? They don't, because they'll get paid £10,000 a week, when they can go to Notts Forest or they can go to Leeds and get paid £40,000 a week. Do you know what I mean? And also, you got to remember that there are a lot of people, a lot of players from overseas that when they say to their wives, "Oh, by the way, we've got a choice. We can go and live in Zaragoza in Spain, or we can live in London and I'll play for Fulham." The wife's going, "Yeah, West London, thanks. Yeah, I'll go shopping in London every weekend. Thanks. Yeah. The kids will go to an amazing school and learn amazing English. Yeah, I think that's the route that we're going to take, And then once you've got those professionals already in the English system, you know what I mean? Say, for example, they don't make it. Then what happens? Their second contract's with Queen's Park Rangers, which is in West London down the road, and they're playing the Championship. Do you know what I mean? Or Southampton, who are going down, but they'll be in an hour from London. Do you know what I mean? Or take your pick. Do you know what I mean? There's Watford just up the road from London.
Yes, and I remember Rafa when he was coaching Newcastle in Championship.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many times are you going to see a coach like Rafa Benitez coaching Elche in Liga B? La Liga, Serie B, or the second division of Spanish. It's just not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And also, you have to remember that
only for us.
Exactly, but also if you look at the 96 professional teams in England, all right, yes. You look at the second division. You go to Germany, you go to Spain, you go to Italy, right, and you look at how many fans go and watch those second division teams, and then you look at the Championship, right, and you've got people like Preston, Blackburn, I don't know. Take your pick. Do you know what I mean?
When we get relegated, we were the most percentage fans in the Premiership.
Exactly.
99.9%.
Exactly. But then also you've got West Bromwich Albion, Birmingham City. Do you know what I mean? Stoke. These teams get 30,000 fans every single week. Do you know what I mean? And everybody can complain from Spain. You can complain from Italy.
Sold out.
It's a product. People want to see excitement.
Yes.
And when you've got 30,000 crazy people screaming their lungs out in a match, that creates excitement. That brings sponsorship. And it's exactly the same argument I have with people that complain about the women's game. I love the women's game. God bless them. I think it's really cool that it's happening. But the fact of the matter is, right, women don't get paid as much as men in sport because men watch sport. Women don't. That's it. Do you know what I mean? It's not a controversial thing to say. It's the truth.
Before we're going to men and women, please, David, don't open something like that.
No.
I will translate. I will summarize what you say, your answer to Badr.
بس دقيقة. هو صادق الكلام ترى صدق الأندية اللي حتى في الشامبيونشيب ترى يأخذون أضعاف.
ما هذا هو اللي يقوله
بالضبط، يأخذون أضعاف الدوري الإيطالي. الدوري الإيطالي تخيل بس ميلان النادي كبير إيطاليا، موسم واحد بس دفع 35 مليون يورو بس. تخيل من اللي قاعد ينافس ميلان بالصفقات، بورموث واللي وساوثهامبتون اللي آخر دوري إنجليزي. صادق كلام صحيح.
He is approving what you said and he comparing his actual team is Milan. Their budget is 35 million only for a season. طبعا أنا بلخص اللي قاله طبعا ديفيد ب3 نقاط. طبعا النقطة الأولى نفس النقطة اللي قلتها، إنه الفكرة في المبالغ المادية اللي حصل عليها الفرق توب 6 في السنوات الأخيرة، مبالغ يعني خرافية مقارنة بالسابق. عشان كذا حاولوا يسوون القوانين دي عشان يحافظون على هذا الإرث، إنه صاروا يكسبون فجأة ما صار يكسب، هذه تسوي له مصايب عكس أول. طبعا يقول ديفيد إنه إحنا عانينا زمان، كان عندهم لاعبين راحوا إيطاليا عشان يلعبون، يعني ما عانينا في الدوري الإنجليزي إلين وصل للنظام الجديد. النظام الجديد هذا جميع غير من يعني غيرني من كل أوروبا يعاني حتى منه. يعني شوف مثلا بورموث، يقارن بورموث مثلا أعتقد قال ميلان.
لا قال في قارن بالثلاثة الكبار.
بشكل عام إنه بورموث الآن يكسب أكثر ما يكسب مثلا النادي مثلا في إسبانيا. برضو هذه النقطة الأولى. النقطة الثانية اللي قالها ديفيد إنه صراع دوري الأبطال، المبالغ المادية اللي يحصل عليها الفريق في دوري الأبطال عالي جدا. عشان كذا الفرق الأوروبية يعني غاضة من موضوع إنه الدوري الإنجليزي يشوفون الفريق يكسب بشكل كبير. في الشامبيونشيب يكسبون 30,000 باوند ترى في مباراة واحدة يعني في الشامبيونشيب. برضو نقطة رافا يعني عمرك شفت رافا بينيتيز يعني يدرب في الدوري الدرجة الثانية في إسبانيا ولا في إيطاليا؟ راح نيوكاسل وصعد فيه. هذا تقريبا ملخص اللي قاله.
أنا أتفق، ومثل ما قال برضو حتى عواد البث تفهم. عواد البث الدوري الإنجليزي مو طبيعية. الدوري الإيطالي تخيل إنه ما فيه قناة رضت إنها تأخذ الدوري.
أذكر أنا
تخيل
يوتيوب.
يوتيوب في كوارث كثيرة.
طبعا برضو نقطة يمكن عديناها احنا بسرعة، إنه لما تكلمنا عن مانشستر سيتي سألت أنا كيف نيوكاسل يعني لما جاب شركة أجنبية أو نص أجنبية مية سعودية أو يعني شركة غير سعودية في الشرق الأوسط، قلنا إنه ما نبي نكرر مثلا أو أخطاء مانشستر سيتي. قلت طب كيف يعرفونها؟ يعني مو معقول محفوظة كيف لا؟ يقول ديفيد إنه لا، في بريطانيا وضع المكشوف في شيء في اسمه الهاوس كمباني هاوس أيوة. يقول فيها تسجيلات تطلع أنت عادي الحين تدخل تشوف أي شركة كم تربح كم يعني أشياء ملزمين فيها. مو مثل كيف حالك كيف حالك يا بدر؟ طيب فمرة الموضوع مرة كل شيء مكشوف يعني، يقدرون يعني المحامين مع يعني اكسس وكذا يروحون يشوفون وش الاخطاء اللي اخطا فيها مانشستر سيتي او الاشياء اللي مو شرط انهم اخطاوا او شيء قربتهم للشبهات اكثر. يمكن سيتي ما اخطا، يمكن بريء سيتي، بس انه وش الاشياء اللي مسكت عليهم بغض النظر صحيحه او غلط. فعشان كذا حاولوا الان، عشان كذا ياخذون معلومات. فهذه نقطه حلوه من السعوديه والامارات في الشركات مع بعض متفاهمين في الشراكه في هذه الامور.
لكن السؤال، هل المعلومات هذه بس في الدوري الانجليزي، الدوري يعني الدرجه الاولى، ولا حتى الدرجه الثانيه؟
كل شركه في بريطانيا، كل شركه في بريطانيا
مزبوط.
طبعا. طيب في شيء بتعلقوا ألن على هذا الموضوع؟ لانه عندنا برضو موضوع اخر.
ما في شيء، لا صراحه ما بدي اضيف
طيب.
شيء. تفضل.
نبغاك تبدا بسرعه قبل ما يجي ديفيد ويقعد. طيب احكي، نبغى نبدا في now we'll move to another subject.
Okay.
Yeah, we have something about we would like really talk about it. I get a lot of question regards. We'll talk first in Arabic. طبعا نادي أستند، النادي البلجيكي، يعني اقترب. يقول لك نادي يعني تأسس 1904. طبعا الآن الدوري البلجيكي هبط. طبعا في ناس بيقول ليش شرى شريط الفريق هبط؟ لأنه طاح سعره. طبعا الغريب إنه في شمال شرق بلجيكا، زي
نفس الموقع.
اي، فانا استغربت يعني ايش الفكره، ايش يعني الصدفه هذه. طبعا شوف احنا في المركز 16 هبط في الخساره اللي تقريبا من اسبوعين. في عندنا هنا معلومات طبعا يعني كلها ويكيبيديا يعني، لكن الفكره انه يعني حتى افضل لاعبين عنده لاعبين فرنسيين ولاعب اعتقد ياباني، هذول اشهر لاعبين يعني، ما حتى في بلجيكيين، لكن نقول ان شاء الله يجينا واحد زي بروينا او شيء. انا بسال الحين ديفيد، ممكن حتى ألن برضو يعلق قلنا رايه اذا عنده سؤال انه كيف نستفيد. يعني انا اللي اعرفه انه يعني انا صراحه ما اهتميت كثير في الموضوع، اكون صادق، بس لازم نغطي موضوع مهم وكلنا نحكي عنه، لازم نغطيه. هي الفكره انه يصير انا يكون عندي موهبه، مثلا ممكن موهبه من السعوديه، ممكن انا اوديه مثلا النادي هذا سهوله يتدرب علشان اقدر اجيبه بعدين مثلا دوري انجليزي. قيس على ذلك بجميع المواهب، بدل ما انا زي ما سوينا بجرنكور رحنا اعرناه لبلجيكا وندور نادي وانتبهوا عليه لا تلعبونه. لا، هنا تقدر انت اكثر تتشرط، خلوه يلعب في المركز هذا، يصير فيه المدربين حق الفريق هذا ممكن يتكلمون مع مدربين.
ممكن ابرز مثال لايبزيج مع سالزبورغ سويسري. هالاند كان سالزبورغ وراح لايبزيج، راح دورتموند.
مالك واحد قصدك؟
اي مالك واحد بين لايبزيج وسالزبورغ، صاير في انتقالات بين الناديين هذه بشكل مو طبيعي، نفس المالك نفس الاداره نفس كل شيء، بس اللهم ان نقل اللاعبين انه يبدا في سالزبورغ بعدين يتدرج ويدخل اوروبا ويلعب باوروبا كم جيم بعدين يدخل على لايبزيج.
باختصار هو نادي اخر تحت تحكم، هذا باختصار. ألن ايش ممكن يعني تعلق على الموضوع او ايش قريت؟ يعني انا قريت انه 11 مليون ممكن يشتري نيوكاسل. ايش
10 و11 مثل انه عشان تطوير الفريق ممكن نبعث نحن بدل ما نبعث لاعبين اعاره لفرق اخرى نبعثهم للفرق اللي نحن بنملكها، يعني للاستفاده بيفيدوا الفريقين يعني بيستفادوا منهم. ممكن اذا نحن تم الاستحواذ على الفريق البلجيكي، وايضا نفس اتباع نفس السياسي مع نيوكاسل، انه الاعداد الفريق مش بس اللاعبين، البنى التحتيه للفريق والكوادر التدريبيه وكل شيء يعني من الصفر. فاكيد راح يتطوروا اللاعبين اللي راح نبعثهم على الفريق، على هذا الفريق، لانه راح يكون في تطور مثل عنا نحن شفنا تطور سريع لنيوكاسل. فايضا راح يكون لاعبين الشباب، لانه نحن عندنا نيوكاسل اندر 21 مش كتير قوي يعني ما الفريق. فهي الاعارات كلها ومباريات الوديه مع الفرق الاخرى يعني اكيد فرصه للتطور لو تقدم النادي يعني. وممكن نحن نرفض الفريق بلاعبين شبان. طبعا هي دراسه يعني لازم تكون دراسه من اشورث بالنسبه لهذا الموضوع يعني اكيد اذا تم الاستحواذ على هذا الفريق فبيكون قرار اشورث برايي مشان تدعيم الفريق الاول بالمواهب وفرصه يعني ممكن هذا الفريق ننتدب بعد مثلا الموسم القادم بعد اذا استحوذنا عليه ممكن يرجع يصعد على الدوري الممتاز ويستقطب لاعبين مثلا من من الدوري البلجيكي، وبعدين بينتقلوا لنيوكاسل مثلا. كمان ممكن يكون وساطة يعني بين الدوريين مثلا. وفي عنا أكيد إداريين بيكون موجودين هونيك بيتابعوا اللاعبين بالدوري كشافي.
اشهر لاعب عندهم فرنسي اسمه ماكسيمي.
صح.
مش ماكسيمي، ماكسيمي.
هن في عندهم لاعبين انجليز على فكره، في 3 لاعبين انجليز او 4. هدول ما بعرف، انا لفتوا لي نظري لانه نيوكاسل بحب اللاعبين الانجليز. في واحد منهم كان يلعب بتشيلسي وبارسنال.
اي معروف البلجيكي.
انجليزي، لا جنسيته انجليزي. هلا
أوكي.
شفته مادلي، اسمه مادلي. شوف اتاكد لكم من اسمه.
في شيء جدير بالذكر يا ألن، انه في نفس الدوري موجود الامير عبد الله بن مساعد نادي اللي هو بيرشكوتا او شيء زي كذا. بنفس الوقت شيفيلد يونايتد الان صعد البريمير ليج، فبيكون ناديين سعوديين هنا وناديين سعوديين هنا. وترى في علاقه كبيره بين النوادي. الامير عبد الله بن مساعد نقل كم لاعب من الفريقين، فنفس الفكره بتكون بنيوكاسل.
مزبوط 100%. وبهالمناسبة بدنا نبارك لنادي شيفيلد لرئيس النادي أيضا بالتأهل للدوري الإنجليزي الممتاز. راح نشوف ديربي أيضا سعودي.
أكيد بتصير مباراة مولعة بين نيوكاسل وشيفيلد. عجبيني رابطة شيفيلد.
لازم.
طيب David, we were talking about the new club that maybe join the group of BIF for investment, Ostende, KV Ostende. So what you can tell us about that?
Well, obviously Ostende are a very uninspiring Belgian team. Reasonably good history, not a lot of success. Now, again, obviously, if you look at various different multi-club groups, such as obviously the City Football Group is a good example. They've obviously bought clubs in the United States, South America, and obviously this works for multiple reasons. Obviously, one, financial reasons. Number two is obviously the most important, which is scouting recruitment. You can take kids as young as sort of like, 11, 12 years old. Obviously, because the UK has left the European Union, there is now considerable issues with regards to getting working permits and visas for professionals to come from Europe to work and play in the UK. Also, what you have to remember is that, for example, Brazil is a former colony of Portugal. So although the European Union has certain immigration laws relating to Brazil, what you find is that a lot of Brazilian kids have family, third, fourth generation Portuguese family. And again, you see a lot of time as well with the Argentinians in Italy. There is a lot of Argentinian players that that join, like, Italian team academies at a young age, bless you, because they have a grandmother who was Italian and they can get an Italian passport. So obviously we don't have that connection with a lot of South America. So it would be very, very wise to have a team in Europe that we can obviously use as a feeder club. That's what they were called back in the day. Rather than just like a multi-club model, it was a feeder club, where I believe it's Breda in Holland that were, or is still, but were definitely being financed by Roman Abramovich and Chelsea. I think it was them, or was it? I can't remember who it was. It's one of the Dutch clubs, and they've got into a lot of problems recently because of obviously their association with Abramovich. However, it's a very good thing. It's only can be positive. For example, deals like Garang Kuol, who's obviously our Australian superstar kid that's gone to play in Scotland on loan. We can then obviously attract players, stick them in the Belgian team, and obviously then we can as they come through, we can obviously bring them through into the Newcastle Academy or into the development team or straight into the first team if they're good enough. However, also what it allows us to do is start basically developing players that we may not necessarily actually end up signing to play for Newcastle United. But what we will do is we will take kids that will, cost us €10,000. We'll train them, which will cost us €50,000, and then we'll sell them for €1 million. So we have this then additional other revenue stream. So not necessarily we just developing kids that are going to come straight into our first team, but we're also using it for financial purposes, So again, it's a beneficial thing in terms of additional revenues for the Newcastle group of clubs in general. And also, again, I believe that there was interest in Botafogo, I think, in Brazil, if I remember rightly. I think it was Botafogo, another team that plays in black and white stripes. But basically, by having one of those teams in Brazil, we will then be able to attract and sign Brazilian kids, teenagers, and develop them in a club. And obviously then we will be able to sign them directly to Newcastle United with very little competition. Do you remember the, what's he called? Is it the Šeško, the Eastern European striker that plays for RB Salzburg? We were trying to sign him last year. Very, very exciting player, 19 years old this year, Champions League experience, awesome striker. And there was a bit of a bidding war going on between us and Manchester United, and it was going up to be about 30 million for his signature. And Salzburg didn't want to let him go. So what they did was they did a deal with Leipzig for 25 million for their player, because obviously it's Red Bull and Red Bull, right? So basically we can do similar sort of deals if there's some real awesome Brazilian player that we have in our club in Brazil and Real Madrid are trying to sign him. Even if they offered twice as much money, he'll come to Newcastle because it's within the same group. And obviously what's happening now is we're starting to see that, it's about farming talent. It's about taking kids from as young as 8, 9 years old and developing them through all the way through the youth academies in various countries. Obviously, we've got Alberto Solano, the ex-Newcastle United player, who has his academies in Peru. And obviously, he said that we obviously will get our first choice. In other words, Newcastle will get first choice of any of the top quality graduates from his academies in Peru. And obviously, we want to set this model up in other countries, and obviously try to farm the best talent. Because obviously, whilst we will go out and spend, 40, 50, 60 million on players like Bruno, like Isaac, we really want to be getting them young, spending 5, 10 million on them, like a Garang Qual, $300,000, and then hopefully growing them into a $25, $30 million player, potentially making them, a world-class player that come and play for Newcastle. But if they don't, we can then sell them for 20, 30 million and generate that revenue. Obviously, then that goes into the finances, and obviously that means then FFP looks a lot more, a lot better. On a side note, Liverpool are beating Tottenham 3-1. Crazy.
طبعا يبينا برضو رابطة لازم. alright. So طبعا زي ما قلنا يعني انه في كملخص انه النادي زي نادي اخر تتحكم انت فيه، لك تحكم فيه، يمديك تسوي فيه انتقالات لاعبين بطرق قانونيه، لانه انت في الاخير هم اهم شيء ما يشاركون في ابطال اوروبا.
مو نادي،
اهم شيء انك ما تجيب نادي كبير. في ناس يقول ليش ما شرى انتر ميلان. انا بس ديفيد هذا السؤال shortly. David, can you elaborate that a lot of people asking about Inter Milan or other club who participate in Champions League can be owned by PIF? Is that possible that we hear? Because we hear something.
So basically the problem is that it arises when you have conflict, because you cannot have a majority share owner. So in other words, PIF own 80% of Newcastle United. Okay.
We know that, David, but we hear lately there is a big change.
No. So basically, right, if PIF have a 20% stake in Inter Milan, for example. They are a minority shareholder. Therefore, there is no direct conflict of interest. However, if PIF owned 51% of Inter Milan, AC Milan, whatever, and then we go into the same competition, and say, for example, Inter Milan and Newcastle get drawn in the same Champions League group, immediately there is going to be a conflict of interest because you have two companies owned by one owner, and because they are the controlling interest in those two companies, it is a conflict of interest and a problem. So this is the same issue that's going on with, who is it that owns, I think it's Leon and someone else. I think it's the guy that's trying to buy Man United, challenging the Qatari bid, Justin Althani's bid. What's it called? Yeah, that guy. What's he called? I can't remember his name. What's he called?
PSG. Paris Saint-Germain.
I can't remember his name, but that guy, yeah, he owns the big EOS, the chemical company. So like, obviously that will be a conflict of interest because obviously if they end up playing in the same Champions League group, it's going to be the two teams that are owned by one person, which isn't good. Again, this is my issue with obviously Justin Althani then potentially buying Manchester United, because if you believe the reports in the paper yesterday, the first signing they're going to make is going to be Neymar. And so if they go and spend 150 million on Neymar, right, and they pay cash up front, what does that say? Because obviously they know that Paris Saint-Germain is in financial difficulty with the rules. And then you've got the Prince of Qatar buying a player from the club that is owned by the Sports Investment Fund of Qatar. It's really, really dodgy, you know. Obviously, I'm sure it'll be completely legal, you know. I'm sure that there'll be ways that it will be shown to be all within the rules. But again, it's not very sporting, is it?
Yeah, not the goal.
No, exactly. It doesn't look good. But then again, like I said, I mean, the rules are there. I mean, if the Premier League is serious, if UEFA is serious, if FIFA is serious about all these things, they want to make this, you know, because to be honest with you, I mean, before we had the takeover, obviously we were in a position where we were one of the other 14 teams without money. You know, we could have been so much better because obviously Mike Ashley has the money, could have spent the money, could have made us a big club, decided not to, right? So he could have made this competitive, decided not to, didn't want to spend the money. But you see, we were always in a position where they were saying that financial fair play rules were brought in to basically mean that teams weren't going to go bankrupt, and B, to make it much more competitive. When in reality, the truth is that all of these rules have been brought in to stop, for example, PIF buying a club like Newcastle and then putting more pressure on Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, and all the traditional big successful teams. It's a way of basically keeping that small club of elite teams in the financially powerful positions in the game. Obviously, they saw what Abramovich did with Chelsea, and obviously what Sheikh Mansour has done with Man City Group. And obviously, they wanted to stop that. And all these financial rules have been brought in simply to control the game in general. It's got nothing to do with the best interest of the game at all. Because if that was the case, you know, I mean, all of these things would have happened a lot sooner. You know, Real Madrid and Barcelona, their finances are in an absolute state. As we know, Barcelona are about to activate another one of their financial levers. I mean, they've already spent 10 years of their TV rights money, and they're still in debt. Do you know what I mean? It's a disaster, that club, yet they're still allowed to operate. I mean, if it was really an honest effort to try and make teams financially stable, then it would be completely different. But it isn't, you know. There shouldn't be a time where a club like Barcelona with such great history that belongs to the city and belongs to the fans should be in a place where its finances are in such a bad state. It's absolutely disgraceful. I really feel sorry for the fans of that club, because ultimately in 3-4 years' time, the money is going to run out and they're going to be in a position where there is no more money to find. They'll have to sell all of their players, and potentially they'll face fines and bans. Again, it is what it is. We'll have to see what happens with Man City, because obviously that's another landmark case. We have to see what happens if any charges are brought against Paris Saint-Germain, which I don't know how they aren't. They have to be, but will they? We don't know. But again, it's just that it's like refereeing. The financial rules seem to be open to interpretation. A rule is a rule for us, but then when you see Fabian Schär get kicked in the head and we don't get a penalty, yet Alexander Isak bumps into a player 2 matches later and that's a penalty. Come on, because Man United player kicked Fabian Schär in the head, it's not a penalty. Come on, we have to have the rules are the rules. If we're going to have rules for one group of teams, it has to be for all groups of teams, or it doesn't make any sense. And then if that's the case, then, yalla, we just might as well go spend our money. But then we don't need to. We've got Eddie Howe. We don't need to buy these top players. We've got the best coach in the world,
Yes.
طبعا ديفيد يقول يعني ملخص الجزئية حقت انه ليش ما حد يشتري مثلا انتر ميلان او نادي. انت ممكن تشتري بس نسبة قليلة، 20% لها حسابات، بس نسبة قليلة، بس يعتمد ايش خطتك، ايش بتستفيد اكثر. هلا لما اروح اشتري نسبة قليلة في نادي مثلا، او اني انا اخذ نادي، وبالعكس ممكن النادي يكون تحت، لانه لما تملك اكثر من 51 لك كامل القرارات في النادي، انت تتخذ القرارات. فعكس هذا الشيء ما بيصير اذا انت في نادي اخر زي انتر ميلان، انت بس هتدفع وتاخذ ارباح فقط، مالك الا تعطي رايك فقط.
هذه المشكله اللي الحين طايحين فيها في باريس سان جيرمان. هذا اللي كنت بقوله تو بعقب عليه، بس ما شاء الله ابحر فيه. باريس سان جيرمان ملاكه يبغون ينتقلون من النادي الى وين؟ مانشستر يونايتد، صح ولا لا؟ في مشكله هنا. لو اخذ المالك 51% في بي اس جي، 51% في مانشستر يونايتد، بيكون هو نفس المالك. لو تاهل بي اس جي مان يونايتد، هنا مشكله. الابطال ما راح يقدرون يلعبون اثنين، لازم واحد منهم يلعب بس نفس المالك. هنا وش المشكله؟ وش اللي بتضطر تسويه قطر؟ لازم تبيع 51% من املاكها في بي اس جي، وتخلي عندها 49% من ناحيه عندها ملكيه في النادي استثمار. تمام؟ ياخذون 51% من وين؟ مانشستر يونايتد. هو مالك
نفس المالك يملك نسبتين عادي. طبعا
عادي، ما عندك مشكله. اهم شيء ان مالك
تحكم في ناديين.
اوكي. لازم لك 51% بس مانشستر يونايتد على اساس انك تتحكم بالنادي بس، ممتاز لك الامر والنهي في النادي، ملكك النادي.
طيب يعني هذا الكلام يعني كاني اقول ممكن اخذ انتر ميلان مثلا،
تقدر
بالنسبه اني ما اخذ قرارات.
ايوه
اوكي، هذا تحديد النسبه.
تقدر.
جميل.
نرجع عند سالفه نيوكاسل وانتر ميلان. انت لو قلت لي مبدئيا هل ممكن انه يتخذون صندوق الاستثمارات السعوديه خطوه انهم ياخذون انتر ميلان؟ انا اقول قطعا لا. اول شيء استثمار فاشل من ناحيه انه
من ناحيه انك انت تشجع
لا 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 من ناحيه انه انتر ميلان نادي مديون ديون فظيعه.
هو انا اقول انتر ميلان لانه كثره الشائعات.
بس انا اقول لك ديون فظيعه. ثاني شيء مستحيل يرضخون مشجعين انتر ميلان والرابطه حقتهم سالفه انك تجيب لعيبه تدربهم في النادي ويطلعون. فهمت؟ مستحيل. يعني لوكاكو الان رجع من تشيلسي، مسكين فيه
الحين يعاني واعاده
رجع. لوكاكو رجع بس اعاره، بيرجع تشيلسي، مسكين فيه، ما يبغى يكون. صعبه جماهير الايطاليه بالذات، يعني داخله فيها ما فيها صعبه ما راح يخاطر فيها، يروح ياخذها نادي صغير ويبدا.
اكيد فكره مختلفه تماما يصعد اللاعبين. هذا ان شاء الله يكون هذا يعني يوضح الفكره حقت ليش ناخذ نادي توه هابط مثلا زي استنده تي في. طبعا الان من غير الموضوع، لانه يعني بنروح الموضوع الاخير. نبغى نسالك انت، نبدا معاك. برضو راح اسال ديفيد بعد شوي. موضوع انتقالات اللاعبين، يعني سمعنا احنا يعني الى الان مثلا الى الان التلغراف. انا سؤالي عن ديفيد بيكون عن تلغراف. باخذ رايك برضه يا الين. انا ما عجبني يعني صاروا يجيبون اخبار يجمعون لي 20 لاعب في تغريده يقول لك هذا خبر حصري انه جبنا اللاعبين. لو ترجعون يعني لو ترجعون التغريدات او اخبار قديمه تلقون كل الصحافه قاعد يعني كثير قالوا انه هذا اللاعب جواو بدرو خلاص راح يروح نيوكاسل.
حتى فابريزيو رومانو فابريزيو رومانو سنة الموسم الماضي قال انه خلاص تمت
ليله سقوط رومانو ما تنسى هذه. وقال هير وي جو في اخرتها. وين راح؟ هو راح برايتون.
صح
وقع مع برايتون
ديزيربي.
فعشان كذا يعني هذا الموضوع يعني مزعج جدا يعني. لكن الأقرب الآن عشان بس من أقرب المصادر الأقرب هو ماديسون مرشح الأول والأقرب الأول، وتيرني الظهير الأيسر حق أرسنال. هذا معجب جدا فيهم إيدي هاو. برضو ديابي، لكن ديابي يعني اسم فقط ما جاء خبر ينفي يعني. كان في اهتمام فقط سابقا لكن ما في أي كلام أبدا يعني بخصوص هذا اللاعب، مجرد الأخبار القديمة. الأخبار الجديدة فقط ماديسون وتيرني. مكتوميناي قلنا يعني أخبار من مقربين لمانشستر إنه اللاعب يعني محبوب جدا من المدرب سير أليكس فيرغسون، يعني مصر على النادي إنه يجلس. برضو يعني في برضو ماونت بنحكي عنه يعني بعد شوي. مين ممكن من اللاعبين ممكن برضو ديفيد ورايس برضو، بس رايس بيكون مبلغه عالي جدا. طيب ألين، إيش تعقيبك على آخر الأخبار حق الانتقالات؟
والله أنا برأيي إنه ما في شيء هلا حاليا. الموضوع متروك لنهاية الموسم لحتى نعرف الفريق شو رح يعمل. رح يتأهل لدور الأبطال. إذا تأهل الفريق لدور الأبطال رح تتغير كل شيء يعني. رح يتغير كل اللاعبين المفضلين للفريق رح يتغيروا كلهم. رح تتغير سياسة التعاقدات بشكل كبير جدا يعني. ولكن أنا رح أفترض إنه تأهل الفريق يعني لدور الأبطال. الثلاثة دول اللي حكيت عنهم هم يعني أكثر شيء ماديسون وديابي تيرني برأيي مطلب يعني، لأنه الموضوع
أخاف إنه تيرني تارجت آخر يعني.
والله ما بظن. أنا شاهدته مع أرسنال. طب شو بدنا نعمل؟ بدنا ظهير أيسر. بدنا ظهير أيسر.
قلت لك إن في واحد جاهز إنه يطلع من ناديه ويجيك وبمبلغ أتوقع قليل.
مين
يلعب لك يمين ويسار.
مين؟
حتى في المحور لاعب كانسيلو. اسم يعني طلع من بايرن ميونخ على اساس انه بيلعب او بيطلع من بايرن ميونخ على اساس انه
هو عارف
اساسي. ومانشستر متهاوش مع جوارديولا مستحيل يرجع.
يمكن ياخذوا بايرن ولا لا؟
لا
عارف.
لا صرح البايرن انه بيطلع كانسيلو لانه مو براضي.
صار احتياطي اصلا.
تهاوشوا. هو طالع من بايرن وطالع من مانشستر.
كانسيلو ظهير ايسر
بيلعب ظهير ايمن. بيلعب
اساسي
بس برأيي
رايت
برأيي كانسيلو ما بينجح يعني. كانسيلو عنده مشاكل شكله مع كل الفرق. بيعمل مشاكل. احنا ما بدنا لاعب يعمل مشاكل. عرفت كيف يعني؟ كله يعني عمل مشاكل مع كأنه حياته الشخصية عم يدخلها بالكذا او بده يعني عصبي اللاعب
انه طول الموسم في الاحتياط ما حد جاء ولعب ولا
ايه تارجت يعني احتياط ديله ما حكى ولا كلمه. ما سمعنا حسه.
لا وقلب دفاع بعد اللي يعني ماسك خانته مو ظهير.
اي صح
حتى بس برايي الموضوع اللي يمكن شوي المطالب.
اعلن كيف
كنت جاي احكي عن موت. انا المطالب الماليه تبعت اللاعب هي اللي ممكن تحول دون انتقاله. لانه نيوكاسل عنده سياسي برايي على السياسي بالرواتب. ما بسقف بالرواتب حاليا ما بده يتخطاه. فممكن هذا الامر يحول الا اذا اللاعب قرر تخفيض سالري المعاش. اذا نزل معاشه ممكن يقبل بالنيوكاسل فيه.
وليفربول داخل الصفقه
صحيح. زي ما تكلمت انه اهم حتى ديكلان رايس عنده مطالب ماليه. هاي المشكله يعني. لانه نحن عندنا برونو يمكن اكثر شيء عند 200,000 يمكن. بالاسبوع، فكله طالب 250 و300. ما بعرف انه شو لاعبين يعني. برونو هذا لازم يكون لحاله ومعاشه افضل، فلذلك هذا الموضوع انا برايي ممكن يكون له اثر بالتعاقدات الجديده مع الفريق.
شكرا لك يا ألين. David, I would like to ask about the transfer market, expected players, and why Telegraph they still keeping bringing wrong exclusive every time, and we still believe them.
Well, first of all, you have to look at who the reporter is at the Telegraph. I can't remember what his name is, but I mean, all throughout the takeover, he was the one who was
Look at us.
Miguel Delaney, right? He's the Telegraph guy, isn't he? He absolutely.
Luke Edwards as well.
Oh, Luke Edwards as well. Yeah, well, Luke Edwards, I have no respect for him whatsoever, to be honest with you, as a journalist of Newcastle. He has a very biased agenda, and also as Miguel Delaney is the most anti-Newcastle reporter. It's so I don't listen to those guys.
But David, most of they are speculation, and the people, the fans still believe.
Well, look, I mean, this, like I said, so I mean, I've got a few friends that I used to work with who are friends with professional footballers and related. One of the guys I used to work with, Roy, is Micah Richards' uncle. Okay, so basically, I know exactly how the whole business works. Okay, because obviously I watched Micah Richards go from Man City to Aston Villa, for example. Right, I know how it all works. Another guy called Ross. I can't remember what his name is. He's playing for Leeds and ended up going to Fulham. Was it Fulham? I think it was Fulham. Anyway, basically what you've got is journalists, especially in the written press for newspapers, okay, they are desperate for stories because obviously they need to have clicks. They need to have people looking at their websites to then be able to go to advertisers and say, 100,000 people look at our page. So that means that your advert will be seen by 100,000 people. Pay us X amount of money, okay? So they need clickbait. They need stories that people are going to read, okay? Then you've got agents. Agents only get paid when their client moves club. When their client moves club or their client signs a new contract. In between, they don't get paid. They only get paid when they actually do something for their client, right? So you've got two people who are desperate to make money. One, a journalist who needs a story. Number two, you've got an agent who needs to keep his client relevant, okay? So what happens? Reporters have got all the phone numbers of all the agents. They're on WhatsApp together like we're on WhatsApp. Hey, man, how you doing? What's happening? Oh, good. Is there any chance that you could possibly tell me the story of striker A is going to club B? Oh, well, officially I couldn't say anything because my client's happy at his club. But rumor has it that striker A is going to club B. And then all of a sudden, newspaper story. And then, of course, you get all this nonsense about, Newcastle have 500 million to spend. They're going to buy this player. Sources, always in English, they always say sources close to the player or from the player's camp or sources close to the club. And it's like, basically, sources close to the club is a bottle of ketchup in a chip shop down the road from St. James's Park. That's the source. Do you know what I mean? A drunk man. It's like, come on, man. I mean, and so basically the whole thing goes around and around and around. Now, if you look at when we signed Alexander Isak, no one even knew that was happening. No one heard anything about that. Apparently, we were signing, Nunes from Porto, right? We were signing Nunes. Everything was Nunes. Benfica, sorry, not Porto. Yeah, Benfica. We were signing Nunes. We were signing Nunes, this and that, right? And everyone was getting excited about that guy. Next thing we know is Alexander Isak. Hugo Ekitike. Do you know what I mean? That was a done deal. The contract was signed if you listen to all the press. Everyone said that he'd already signed for Newcastle. He was on his way. sign a summer done deal. Then all of a sudden he gets a new agent and he's at Paris Saint-Germain. Do you know what I mean? Bruno, no one saw that coming. All right?
No one.
Okay? Nobody, right?
Surprise.
Exactly. Now, you know, if you look at the way it's working, right? Now at the moment, what have you got? You've got Scott McTominay, right? This guy has been Newcastle is signing Scott McTominay, right?
Top target.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Interest.
Exactly. Newcastle spending £50 million, right?
Yes.
50 million? That's 10 more than we paid for Bruno. I mean, seriously, like, what are they smoking, man? If that guy's worth 50 million, right? How much is it's like what are you talking about, right?
Yes.
What it is, Scott McTominay's agent, right, will be saying to Man United, my client, whilst Casemiro has been suspended, has played really well. Newcastle are interested in signing him. Yeah. So what are we talking about on the new contract then? Yeah. We're going to contract extension happening. Yeah. What about an extra performance bonus? All these things, right? And he's trying to hustle the angle. Also, what it does is it says to other clubs in the division, like Tottenham, who desperately need a defensive midfielder, hey, Scott McTominay's not happy at Manchester United. Maybe you should talk to them about signing him, you know? Also, say, for example, there is interest, because, you know, I understand that McTominay might be an alternative to Sean Longstaff, and it might be someone that Eddie Howe can work with. But 50 million, no way. If it was for 15 million, 20 million maybe, right? But we're not going to spend massive amounts of money on that player. Do you know what I mean? No way. We've got other top targets we need to go for, as you put on the screen before with Diaby and people like that. Obviously, James Maddison, another one that we're supposed to. It's the worst kept secret in football, right? We're supposed to be signing that guy. But also, Spurs are supposed to be interested in him. Now, Spurs are in 6th right now because Liverpool have just overtaken them, right? Gone into 5th. We're in the Champions League. Where is Maddison wanting to play his football? Is he going to want to play in Champions League? Or is he going to want to go and play at Spurs that isn't in Europe? Do we still want him? Does Eddie Howe still want to put him in? Are we going to change our formation? Are we going to start playing with the number 10? Does this mean that Eddie Howe will then have the opportunity? Exactly, but will we have the opportunity to adapt mid-game and change our formation from our 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1 and have those different changes? Because obviously, like we've talked about, if we get to a point where teams are just going to sit back, as for example happened today, and we have to then go and break them down, we can't just say with this 4-3-3, we're going to need to be more aggressive. We're going to need to play a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1. We're going to have more attacking styles. Also in Europe, we're going to have to be more adaptable to a European style of football. So we're going to have to be able to change our formation. And this is why Eddie Howe has brought in people like Anthony Gordon, right? And he brought in someone like Isaac who can play in multiple positions, who understands different systems. Because what we're doing is we're giving Eddie Howe a toolbox of different skilled players to play in different positions, in different formations. Imagine at 60 minutes, it's 0-0, right? We can then go.
This is what we need. This is what we need. To change our style to be a top team.
Exactly.
This is what we need to be a top team.
Exactly. So Man City do it, you know?
Man City change formation during their matches. Our team needs this thing to do.
But if you're asking me like who I want, my top targets, well, I mean, first of all, I've got to say something ridiculous, okay? Right? This is stupid. It's not in our model or anything, but for one season, on a one-season contract, Ibrahimovic, yeah? Hear me out.
I agree.
One season, right? The guy is still absolutely as fit as a ninja. You see that guy, super fit, right? Okay? The hard-working Newcastle United Eddie Howe team, 10 guys working their backsides off, running, pressing, doing all of that. in the Champions League, 20 minutes to go, you bring on Ibrahimovic. Yeah, 20 minutes. That guy is a winner.
This is the last season with Milan.
Yeah, I know. So we get him for free. Do you know what I mean? He can come for free. That's what I'm saying, right? Yes, he'll be crazy expensive in his wages. It will ruin the wage structure, which isn't good. But it's Ibrahimovic, man. Do you know what I mean? The guy is a winner. He comes in, you have that model professional that has won the Champions League, that is just, you know, it's Ibrahimovic. You know what he's like? He's that arrogant. Also, again,
You have experience.
yeah, exactly. Unbelievable experience. But also you've got Alexander Isak, whose role model is Ibrahimovic, right? Now, yes, that would be amazing, but I don't think we're going to do it. As I said, personally, what I would love to see, obviously, you know, our ideal world would be Osimhen because he's unreal. But again,
don't
think, you don't like him? I think he's amazing, but I don't think we'd get him, to be honest with you. There's a lot of other clubs that would go for him. Also, for me personally, I think 19-year-old, that Šeško guy, that's my number one pick for the striker.
Yes. Nice one.
He's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
For the future.
You know, exactly. But also, again, you know, with the amount of matches we'll play, especially if Callum Wilson, touch wood, hopefully he doesn't get injured. But, you know, if he does get injured, then obviously we have Isak and we have Šeško. And Šeško is more of a number 9. He's more of a centre forward. Do you know what I mean?
The same body.
Yeah, exactly.
As Isak.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, I'd probably say he's more powerful. Do you know what I mean? He's more of a traditional centre forward rather than that player that plays across the front three. Whereas obviously he's much more like in between the posts. You know, that central.
He plays with left leg. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, left-footed. Yeah, but exactly. So you know, I think that we need that. Obviously, Diaby. As far as I've been told from people that are apparently in the know, that this guy, if we qualify for the Champions League, is a done deal. As far as I've been told. Now, obviously, that was the same about Ekitike. Who knows? I mean, to be honest with you, I would take Hugo Ekitike because, you know, even now, he's been in Paris Saint-Germain for a year and he's been embarrassed. He thought he was going to be the big shot. He's gone there. He's been humbled. He's got. If we gave him the opportunity, I'm sure he would come and he would work hard. Now, we've heard, what's he called? The defensive midfielder from Celta Vigo. What's he called? The young guy. I forget what he's called.
Okay. Celta Vigo, yes.
What's he called? I forget what it is, but he looks really cool. I like him. Very cool. And there's also that.
David, sorry, you were saying something about Diaby, but you changed.
Oh, Diaby. Well, I mean, I think he's number one priority for that right wing position. You know, he has to come in. I mean, as far as I've been told, the rumor is that he is going to be a Newcastle United player if we qualify for the Champions League. He didn't want to come in January.
Gabriel Vega.
Vega, yeah, that guy's awesome. Yeah. You know what I mean? If we can bring him in, and he's young as well, and he plays that more Bruno type role.
20 years old.
Yeah, and if you look at his stats, you know what I mean? He's that technical player, good ball player, breaks up play, really decent on the ball, very, very cool player.
From Villarreal.
No, Celta Vigo.
Chikwueze from Villarreal.
Another player.
Yeah, good player.
Oh, yeah, he's class as well. I wouldn't say no to that.
He play striker and right wing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's also a very class player as well. Obviously, his stats are a little bit different profile, but I think, another good choice. Again, obviously, we have an issue with homegrown players because obviously we need a certain amount of homegrown English players and players that have come through the academy to allow us to play in Europe. So,
David,
yeah.
Why not Bowen?
Who, Bowen?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's okay, but again, I mean, the thing is with Bowen, is he that step up? I mean, if you look at what Jacob Murphy's done this season, and you compare their stats and their numbers with Bowen's a great player, don't get me wrong. If we'd have signed him when Steve Bruce was our manager, I'd be very happy. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, Eddie Howe would now have his XG through the roof. Bowen would be amazing, but right now in our development, I think we need to go either a step above to a Diaby or bring in someone that's younger with a bigger ceiling, someone that's got more potential, you know? But again,
I think Bowen is a top player.
He's a very good player.
Same Diaby. There's not difference between Diaby.
Well, the argument I would say is that Bowen has Premier League experience. Diaby doesn't. So that's a good thing for Bowen. Again, you have to look at West Ham. I mean, obviously, they're going to lose Declan Rice this summer, okay? Declan Rice is going to go. If they then also sell Bowen and then potentially 2 or 3 of their other first-team players, they're going to have to do a full rebuild, you know? So I'm not sure that we would get him for a price that makes sense. Because obviously, if we end up spending, 50 million, 60 million on Jared Bowen, who's 26, 27, when you can buy a Diaby who's 24, and then you have those extra few years ahead of him, obviously this is all things that have got to be factored.
But David, the point you're saying about Diaby, he went to Champions League football, that was true, but this was a year ago. Now if we qualify to Champions League and Diaby will come, so I don't think this is the only reason, because we may play Champions League next season, but there is no guarantee to play the other season.
Agreed. Well, I mean, this is the big problem, isn't it? I mean, you see this all the time. You saw it with Leicester. You've seen it with West Ham this season playing in Europe. You have to have a squad that can compete in Europe and in the Premier League to maintain your level of consistency. And you see it all the time with teams that break into Europe and then they have a really bad season the following season and don't qualify for Europe. Also, by buying these players and having them on big salaries and spending all this extra money and then not qualifying for the European competition the year after is very bad for a club financially. So obviously...
We extended Almiron's contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we need a player to play, a new player, for example, to play in two competitions in Champions League, as you say. You are saying we need 2 players in each position, right?
Absolutely, yes. So I basically
we have already we extended Almiron's contract. Do you think we need another one in the right wing position?
I certainly do, because as good as Jacob Murphy has been and as good as Almiron has been this season, they're not of the quality that we need to compete in the Champions League. They're just not.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, we like I said, the players that we are going to bring in are not going to be squad players. The players that we have now will become the squad players next season. And if you look at them, Almiron, Murphy, and I think these people, Sean Longstaff, these guys will play a lot of matches in the Premier League, and they will be happy to be squad players in the Champions League matches. Players like ASM, probably not, because ASM's attitude is that he has to be the main man, the big guy in the team. Maximin, I think we will sell in the summer, because I think that we have an asset there that we can generate probably, if you look at the newspapers, they're saying £50 million, 60 million euros. So if we can get that kind of money for him, that pays for Diaby. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, maybe.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, we've already got Gordon who will play down the left. He will be a lot better next season. I do think that he's trying too hard right now, Gordon, and that he's really trying to impress people because it's his new club. But I really think that, we are in a situation where Alan Saint-Maximin, if you listen to Eddie Howe, is injured or he's ill. And then you look at his Instagram and he's running 100-meter sprints and there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is really weird.
Well, I just think that, I don't know. I mean, obviously that they're being very polite. Oh, damn, Tottenham 3-2.
Yes.
Song Min. Yeah, wow, this is close. Come on,
Naughty.
Spurs.
I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm watching.
Hey, we want to draw here. A nice 3-3. Come on. Anyway, I think St. Maximin will probably
It's very
go
close.
to.
Close game.
Yeah, I think Alan St. Maximin will go to another club, just because we need people that are going to run, are going to press high, and that's not his game. You know, as much as he's awesome and I loved him, it's not his game. You know, whereas obviously a Diaby, Gordon, they will run and run and run and run and run like all the rest of our team, like Joe Linton. You know, everybody presses high, everybody's pushing all the time, and I think that's the model of player that we want to go for. And you know, I just don't. I love Maxi. I love him to death. You know, when we were playing Bruce ball, and it was Steve Bruce, the old cabbage head, as our manager, and you know we were playing 10 men behind the ball and give it to Maxi, and he was doing some magic. Yes. It was amazing. But the problem is when he gets injured or he doesn't find the goal.
But before he got his last injury, he was amazing for us.
He was great.
Assists. He made many assists.
But this is what I'm saying. I just don't understand. You know, I don't understand. I mean, it looked like he was becoming the player that Eddie Howe wanted him to be. So again, it confuses me when you see him not playing. You know, why is he gone away injured? Is he really injured? We just don't know. But again, this is something that I'm really pleased about because, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, this whole situation would be front page news in the papers. Every single pundit, everyone would be talking about Maxi, about Newcastle falling apart, about these big dramas. Now what is it? No story whatsoever. There's no story at all. There's no gossip from inside. There's no leaks from inside Newcastle. You know, it's a quiet, well-run business, and it's great. It's so nice to see.
Maybe later, this will be exposed later.
I think that when he leaves, obviously, maybe in a year's time, if he does leave, if he does go to another club, next season, maybe it will come out. Maybe it will all, you know, we'll find out the truth. But the fact of the matter is, in a year's time, when he's left the club, and we're banging in 3 goals against Juventus with our amazing new winger, you know, maybe we'll do a deal with Real Madrid. So, with AC Milan, because I know Milan are interested in Maxi. You know,
no, Inter.
Oh, it was Inter.
Inter.
Inter. I thought it was. I thought it was Milan.
50 million.
We don't have money.
That's all right.
We don't have money in AC Milan.
No, that's fine. We'll swap you for Leao. Yeah.
Yeah, we have Leao. We have Leao.
عم لك تعطونا اياه محله تعطونا اياه تاخذوا ماكسيمان تعطونا لياه.
We'll give you Maxi and 30 million. You give us Leao, yeah?
No.
3-3 Liverpool. 3-3.
I say before the match 3-3. I say for وليد. Now 3-3.
Hilarious.
Richarlison.
Newcastle إن شاء الله إلى الشام.
I say 3-3 before the match. For وليد.
Awesome.
نيوكاسل إلى الشام بإذن الله. طبعا نتيجة حلوة وبنشوف الحين ترتيب الدوري. الصفحة لو صار 3-3 يصير الفارق
3 minutes remaining.
This is sweet.
محسوبة هنا.
And you know something, right? I mean, up until this season, I always kind of respect. I kind of respected
Liverpool. We have to look at VAR.
ليفربول يعني يصعد للمركز الخامس. توتنهام السادس. حلو يعني ليفربول راح يتأهل للشامبيونز شو اسمه الدوري الأوروبي. إن شاء الله يعني فرق تقريبا 11 نقطة ولا 9 نقاط. 9 نقاط ليفربول. أوكي.
يمكن
هذه 3-2
بالضبط.
3-3 هلا عم يفحصوا الجول تشيك ذا جول.
هذه
But
not it's onside I think it's onside.
BBC said it's a goal. BBC saying it's a goal.
طب حلو.
Decision is a goal. 3-3.
Excellent.
Yeah, come on.
Oh dear. Oh, by the way, have you-
four.
no.
ما هو يا فرحة ما تمت.
No.
anyway عموما طبعا
ولا.
يعني ليفربول فعلا خطير، هو اللي ممكن ياخذ صراحة، ممكن ليفربول ممكن هو اللي ياخذ منه الموقع،
لا
لكن ان
شك.
شاء الله 9 نقاط يعني بيصير في فارق، يعني بيد نيوكاسل، يعني عندك فرصتين، يعني لو تفوز مباراتين برضو ما يكفي، لازم تفوز 3 مباريات. اي لانه 9 نقاط الان صار، ولا 9 اذا صارت 56 9 نقاط. طيب طبعا بعض النقاط المهمه اللي قالها ديفيد، طبعا عن ماكسيمان، بس عشان ما نرجع للموضوع الرئيسي، ماكسيمان في مشكله بينه وبين ايدي هاو، واضح. ايدي هاو يقول انه مصاب، بعدين يطلع في الانستغرام يركض وسابق انه ما في شيء، في شيء، ولا ممكن بعدين هذا كل شيء ينكشف. نرجع لأول سؤال سالته ديفيد، انه يعني ليش الناس ما زالت تصدق الصحافه، خصوصا مثلا تليجراف. انا يجيني مثلا يعني من مقربين متابعين يقول ليش ما تتكلم عن انتقالات في حسابات، اقول لهم هذه الاخبار كلها كذب فقط لزياده المبيعات. ديفيد يقول انا اعرف، يعني كنت قريب من الصحفيين واعرف كيف الوضع يشتغل. شفنا بقول اترجم اللي قاله ديفيد يقول الوضع كالتالي: الصحافه تبغى كليك بيت، تبغى تضغط على الموقع حقه، فاذا ما جابت خبر طيب الصحفي لازم مصداقيه. طيب شو يسوي؟ يقول لك يروح للايجنت، الصحفي عنده كل الفهرس، كل الارقام حقين الايجنت، ويبدا يرسل 1 و2 و3 و4 اللاعب الفلاني ممكن يجي نيوكاسل ولا طبعا يروح الايجنت من مصلحته ان اللاعب حقه يتنقل عشان كل شوي ياخذ عموله،
يعطي خبر كاذب
عشان ياخذ عموله. فاحيانا يمكن الايجنت عنده يعني ما يقدر يسكت، لا يحط بعض الاخبار على انها اشاعه عشان الصحفي يروح يكتب خبر انه والله انا عندي سورس، على قولته علبه الكاتشب هي السورس. فهذه المشكله. انا جربت مره يعني في فتره الموسم الماضي كتبت تغريده من خبر اشاعه، انا نفسي ماني مقتنع والمصدر حسيته مو منطقي، بس حطيت الخبر برضه اكتشفت، كتبت التغريده عن والله ناسي مين اللاعب، جاني تغريدات ريتويت ولايك بشكل كبير. فهذا اللي تستغرب احيانا، يعني انت تسوي حلقه ومجهود وتتعب وما تحصل على هذا الشيء، يعني على تغريده ريتويت وتغريده، لكن تكتب تغريده من راسك صدق تروح وتصوت الخبر وكل اللي يتداولها بالواتساب، هذا شيء يزعل. فهنا الاشكاليه، احنا ما نكتب، ما يعني احنا في نيوكاسل مع وليد نحرص انه نجيب اخبار فعلا صحيحه، ما نبغى نجيب بس اخبار عشان الريتويت ولا. فهذه الاشكاليه اللي قاعد يقولها ديفيد، انه الموضوع فقط للتسويق. الصحفي يبي خبر عشان صحيفته، عشان مبيعات، عشان كليكات، عشان دعايات اللي في الصحيفه، والايجنت وكيل الاعمال يبغى فعلا يعني عنده لاعب يعني يستفيد اكثر اذا بدا ينتقل، لانه بيصير فيه رسوم، مبالغ سريعه، مبلغ سريع زي اللي ياخذوا واحد من البنك في القروض، مبلغ سريع. فما راح يصير هذا الشيء الا لانه خلاص مثلا اللاعب والله فعلا يعني شوف اللاعب لو انتقل مثلا، خلينا نقول مثلا الميرون 5 سنين مع نيوكاسل، خلاص اخذ اللاعب عمولته وكل شيء، من مصلحه اللاعب، مصلحه كل الاعمال انه اللاعب ينتقل عشان ياخذ مبلغ عموله. لو قاعد في نيوكاسل ما راح ياخذ شيء، لانه اوريدي اخذ خلاص، مستحيل ما راح ياخذ شيء جديد الا اذا لا يا ينتقل او يطالب بتجديد برفع عقده. تجديد عقده اكيد هياخذ لانه له نسبه، يصير يضغط انه ياخذ عموله، بس غالبا انا اشوف لو تحسبها غالبا ياخذ اكثر من الانتقال. تعليقك؟
انا اتفق مع كل اللي قلته، بالذات سالفه شو اسمه المبالغه بالاسعار بشكل مو طبيعي، على اساس انه يرتفع سعر اللاعب والعموله كمان ايش هذه صارت كثير، سواء من دورياتنا او الدوريات اللي برا، سواء بالانديه اللي ما عندها اموال واللي عندها اموال، كلها نفس الوضع. دائما يصير تضخيم، اخبار كاذبه، ممكن بعض الاحيان تفشل الصفقه من النادي، ممكن اللاعب يقعد نفس النادي ما يطلع على اساس انه تضخم السعر ما يقدرون، خلاص جلس نفس مكان. أكبر مثال بلينغهام إلى الحين ما طلع من الدوري. من اللي ما تضخم السعر حقه؟ بلينغهام طلع نفس سعره نفس العمولة، بس العمولة حقت رايولا كانت عالية بشكل فظيع، ما راح يقدر يدفعها إلا مانشستر سيتي. يعني بعض الأحيان الأخبار هذه ممكن تصير كارثة على نفس اللاعب ويقعد مكانه. بعض الأحيان يصل النادي النظر عن اللاعب نفسه ويروح يشوف له لاعب ثاني أقل سعر وما في أي تضخيم. بيني وبينك طلعت فضايح شو اسمه اللعيبة اللي هم المدراء حقهم بدأت تطلع، مثل رايولا بدأ كثير. ميلان أعلن إنه خلاص انتهت العلاقة بين ميلان وبين رايولا قبل ما يتوفى هو يموت. انتهت العلاقة خلاص، تضخيم أسعار مو طبيعي مع دوناروما وغيره، خلاص انتهت العلاقة. قفل سالفة رايولا وبدأ يروح مع اللعيبة الثانيين اللي ما عندهم أي علاقة مع رايولا. إلى الآن ما في أي تضخم الأسعار. علاقتك مع هذا خلاص،
هذا بس يبي لها قوه،
يبي قوة.
هذا بالضبط هذا اللي قاعد يصير في سوق الانتقالات. فعشان كذا احنا يعني موضوع اخبار الانتقالات نحرص. فزي ما قلنا يعني اتفقنا انه ماديسون وتيرني هم الاقرب. ديابه كان يعني السنه السابقه لكن موضوع ابطال اوروبا، لكن هل الشيء تغير الان؟ لسه ما جاء شيء جديد يثبت ينفي. هذا برضه مؤشر يعتبر جيد. طيب last thing because يعني this show took more than what expected. Last thing to talk about.
I've grown a beard. We've been on that long.
We'll talk about just something to share with the fans, especially in Arabic. طبعا نشوف احنا يعني كل مره، طبعا الحين بس ديفيد، كل مره يجي خبر انه تيك اوفر سعودي ارابيا، الحقوق المدري ايش، دائما فجاه كذا يجيك خبر. طيب دائما لما يجي خبر زي كذا من صحفي، زي اخر مره واحد تكلم عن استون فيلا. طبعا انا ليش اقول هذا الموضوع، ليش اجيبه؟ لانه يحزنني صراحه لما اشوف حسابات عندنا عربيه وسعوديه تنقل اي خبر، اي شيء يجوب العكاز يروح ينقل. مو شرط هذا اخبار فقط. يعني مثلا ليش الان قاعدين حكين استون فيلا يتكلمون الصحفيين مثلا يجيبون موضوع تيك اوفر؟ خلاص تيك اوفر خلصناه وسويناه بالقانون وانتهينا. ليش يتم ذكر هذا الامر مره ثانيه؟ ابحث عن السبب. شوف الساحه يقول لك عشان مانشستر يونايتد الان في فضايح في موضوع الشراء والصفقه، اخطاء كبيره. يعني ممكن برضو بدر يعني يعطينا اخر ابديت عن الموضوع. عندك فكره عن هذا؟
اخر ابديت انه رفعوا السعر الى 5.5 اتوقع. الى الان ما صار شيء رسمي الى الان. في مشاكل مو طبيعيه، كل ما لهم يعيدون.
طبعا هي الفكره يعني زي لما يجي خبر زي كذا يبدون يتكلمون عن التيك اوفر وهذه الامور عشان بس فقط لتشتيت الانتباه. ديفيد would like to ask about we hear about Aston Villa, we speak about the takeover of Saudi Arabia and Newcastle and stuff. Why this happen occasionally? Is it to cover the scandals in Manchester United takeover, for example? FA or Premier League want to hide this, so they try to make another stories. Or what's your take on that?
To be honest with you, Aston Villa, they were historically a very successful club. Obviously, they've got Unai Emery and they're doing very well now. Before then, obviously, they were doing terribly badly. What you have to remember is that the owner of, or the part owner of Aston Villa is an Egyptian businessman who in 2014 was sentenced to 3 years in prison for fraud charges. You can look on the internet and see that, So basically, not exactly a squeaky clean gentleman, Obviously, some issues there.
Okay, why he speak about this? Why?
Why who? Sorry, why me or why?
No. That's some Villa lad.
Look, I was saying, but again, what you have is, like I keep saying, okay, every time, I've been a Newcastle fan all my life, like I said, and as you know, my grandfather, his cousin played for Newcastle United. My entire life, from the age that I could speak, I have been told everything about this club. You know, the players, the good times, the bad times, everything. And if you look at the history of Newcastle United, okay, after the glory days of like the late 19th century, 1890s, into the early 20th century, 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, when we were winning all of the FA Cups and we were winning all of the leagues, or we were one of the best clubs in the country, and we were playing at the top of the top, and we were great. After that, we went into a time of real darkness where we had a little bit of success in the 1950s. And then in the 1960s, we had nothing until 1969. 1970s, we had some great players, but we never won anything. We were always owned by people. Like, for example, in 1 year, we had a young Peter Beardsley, a young Chris Waddle, and a young Paul Gascoigne. And the owners sold all of them. Do you know what I mean? They weren't thinking of the club. We've always had a history of bad owners, of terrible people that have owned our club. Okay? The story of when Freddie Shepherd and Sir John Hall took the club, you need to read that part of our history because that is fascinating. I mean, they basically had to go to war with shareholders and people that held shares in Newcastle that didn't live in Newcastle, had nothing to do with Newcastle, but just made money out of the club every single year. The ground, St. James's Park, was disgusting. It was falling to pieces. It was an embarrassing time. And we were in the second division and we were close to going into the third division. We were absolutely falling apart. The reason that everybody is so afraid of Newcastle United is because they saw in the 90s, once Sir John Hall and Freddie Shepherd had bought the club, what we could be. They saw Kevin Keegan come in when we're in the second division, and he said to them, we're going to be competing with Manchester United next year. We're coming for you, Alex Ferguson. We're coming for you. Within 1 year, we were at the top of the Premier League fighting for the title. Name another team that can do that. Man City, when they got their money, it took them 7 years to win a title. Chelsea, when they got their money, it took them 5 years to get to be competitive. 1 year and we're third. 1 year and we're third because when people turn up at St. James's Park, they face 50,000 screaming Geordies, right? And there is nothing like that. The fear that clubs get, Spurs, big team from London, one place below us, they got destroyed. Everybody that comes to Newcastle, Manchester United, we beat them 2-0. It could have been 5. It could have been 6. We destroyed them. They cannot put up with the intensity of what it's like to come to Newcastle. It was the same in the 90s. I was at the match when we beat Barcelona 3-2 and Tino scored the two headers and the penalty. I barely remember the second half.
Luis Figo, Luis Enrique.
Exactly. Rivaldo.
We're playing.
Yeah, Rivaldo.
Yes.
What's he called? Pep Guardiola was in the midfield, man. That was the most insane. Patrick Kluivert. Not Patrick Kluivert. What's he called? Yeah, Patrick Kluivert. I mean, it's like that team was unreal. And we made them.
I think
exactly. Yeah, Overmars on the right wing. We made them look average. They were embarrassing. Paul Kitson on the right wing. Are you kidding me? Paul Kitson. Who is Paul Kitson? Ask a Real Madrid fan who Paul Kitson is. No one's heard of him. Yeah? They knew who he was that night because he embarrassed them. He embarrassed their left back. That's why people are so afraid of us. They hate us because they know we will be so powerful.
Newcastle is the third and Manchester United and Liverpool fighting for the last seat.
Exactly. And next season, it won't be Arsenal fighting with Man City for the title. It'll be us.
اوكي
You know.
طبعا يعني طبعا قال مقدمه ديفيد يعني لكن يعني البوينت انه كل هذا يذكرون طبعا تيك اوفر حق نيوكاسل من باب الخوف الشديد انه شوف يعني في سنه واحده
ما حدا بيتمنى لك تنجح
ضد من الهبوط، تجاوز الهبوط العام الماضي في نص موسم يعني تيك اوفر جاء الى الان التوب 3، والان مانشستر يونايتد ليفربول يصارعون على المركز الاخير مؤهل ابطال اوروبا. نيوكاسل الان 9 نقاط، يحتاج فقط مباراتين،
لا 7 نقاط،
اعتقد محتاج مباراتين فوز نيوكاسل فقط، ولا
مباراتين ليك، مباراتين فوز وتعادل. في صوره راح ابعث لك اياها اذا فيك تحطها هلا. ما بعرف.
طيب ليش يا ألن ليش تعادل؟ نقطة فوزين فقط
حاسبين هن السبيرز، حاسبين المباريات انه الماكسيموم اذا فازوا كل فريق فاز بالمباراه الباقيه يعني
ايه
شو بيصير النقاط. يعني الماكسيموم سبيرز بيصير 66، فيلا استون فيلا 66، ليفربول 71، برايتون 70. اذا فازوا كل فريق اذا فاز بجميع المباريات المتبقيه. برنتفورد 62. نيوكاسل حاليا اذا صرنا نحن 71 مثل ليفربول، فارق الاهداف الجول ديفرنس بيكون لصالحنا اكيد لانه نحن بعاد عنهم، فبدنا فوزين وتعادل. يعني
ليش تعادل؟
مش 6 و6 مشان يصير نقاطنا 71. نحن 65.
بس انا اقصد انه 9 نقاط الفارق بين نيوكاسل وليفربول، 9
بس عم نحكي اذا فاز ليفربول بجميع مبارياته الباقيه، عرفت؟ اذا اعتبرنا عطيناه ليفربول اعطيناهم مثلا
لا انا فهمت عليك كيف تحسبها، بس انا اقصد انه يعني نيوكاسل لو فاز مباراتين وخسر الباقي ما تفرق ولا؟
هلا نحن كم نقطه معنا حاليا؟
65 بنصير 71
نحن
فوزين فقط.
مزبوط فوزين صح.
ايه فوزين
بس مشان 100% ليك
الا اذا جابوا ليفربول نتائج كبيره يعني
نحن مشان 100% انه 200% 71 عرفت
بالضبط. فهي زي ما قلت يعني برايتون وان شاء الله ليفربول يعني برضه يعني عنده مباريات صعبه ليفربول. عندك
لا والله
تقول
لا والله مو صعبه.
لا بالعكس،
اعطينا فكره عن مباريات ليفربول بالله.
سواء ليفربول عندهم فولهام، في عندهم ماتش فولهام على ارض ليفربول، وبعدين برنتفورد على ارض ليفربول، بعدين ليستر سيتي على ارض ليستر سيتي، بعدين استون فيلا على ارض ليفربول. استون فيلا صعب شوي. بعدين اخر مباراه مع ساوثهامبتون على ارض ساوثهامبتون، يعني ساوثهامبتون بيكون
يعني مباريات
مثل ما قلنا في البدايه اصعب شيء استون فيلا، بس
بإيد نيوكاسل.
حتى برينتفورد ممكن
برينتفورد صح. طبعا الموضوع مرهون على سالفه هل توني بيغيب ولا لا. يعني
نحن في عنا ارسنال، يعني هي المفتاح برايي. الارسنال هي المفتاح يعني لكل شيء، لانه اذا فزنا
مع ألن الموسم اللي فات حرمناهم من الابطال. الموسم هذا احنا بنتاهل الابطال على حسابهم. الفوز لنيوكاسل صدقني
ان شاء الله يا
رب. في شيء ما حسبناه. افرض مانشستر يونايتد برضه ظل يفوز،
لا وافرض في شغله كمان ثالثه، افرض خسر جميع مبارياته ارسنال.
ترى صعبه جدول احمر كله. ارسنال جدول احمر ترى. اطلع لك الجدول
الخسارات الاخيره يعني.
لا الجدول الجاي
صعب يعني
صعب كله.
اوكي
اطلع لك اياه دقيقه.
مع تشيلسي بعدين مع نيوكاسل بعدين مع برايتون،
ضد
نيوكاسل
برايتون 3 مباريات من نار.
بس انا ما افكر في فائزه. انا ابغى همي اضمن الابطال، ولا ودي صراحه مانشستر يونايتد ولا ليفربول ياخذ منه. فبيد نيوكاسل ان شاء الله. شفنا حنا الجدول هذه وين يعني خلينا نقول ارسنال تعادل اصعب شيء، ليدز ان شاء الله نفوز على ليدز، هذه 4
ليدز وليستر. اذا فزنا على ليدز وعلى ليستر خلص وتعادلنا مع ارسنال بلا، حتى لو خسرنا من برايتون وتشيلسي ما عليه.
لا مباراة صراحة مباراة ولع صراع الشامز ليج ولع
على الاخر.
ولا
اليوم
طيب
بس اليوم
في هذا كنت بتتكلم عنه يا بدر؟
اي كنت بتكلم
عن ايزاك وويلز. ايش كنت بتقول؟
طيب احنا شفنا انه في بالاونه الاخيره ايديهاو في عنده لخبطه بسالفه ويلسون وايزاك ما يدري من يلعب اساسي. شفنا بالمباراه لعب ايزاك، المباراه الثانيه لعب فيها ويلسون اساسي، المباراه اللي بعدها صار فيه تدوير، كل مباراه لاعب واحد يلعب والثاني يدخل كبديل. في لخبطه، المدرب ما هو بعارف يوظف الاثنين في نفس التشكيله. المشكله هذه واضحه جدا مع ايديهاو، انه مو قادر يوظف الاثنين في التشكيله. لكن الان لو شفنا في المباراه اليوم في الشوط الثاني، شفنا كيف فعاليه الفريق صراحه احرق الملعب في الشوط الثاني. اول ما دخل ويلسون خلاص انت عرفت التوليفه الممتازه عندك انك تلعب سترايكر ويلسون وتلعب على اليسار ايزاك. ما ادري ليش مو معتمد على الاسمين هذه كاساسيين، يعني انك تدخل بالاثنين كلهم. ليش تارك واحد للاحتياط في اكثر من مباراه؟ ما ادري، على اساس انه يحافظ على ويلسون من الاصابه. ما أدري. ممكن عنده وجهه نظر زي كذا، لكن بشكل عام انا اشوف في لخبطه بسالفه ويلسون صرح تصريح انه انا جالس بنيوكاسل وما راح اطلع، على اساس اني اعيش حلم الابطال مع نيوكاسل، اني العب مع نيوكاسل الابطال. تضحيه حلوه من ويلسون. بنفس الوقت ما قال ابو تميم اللي قبل شوي انه ممكن ما في احد راح اصلا يدفع على ويلسون قدر ولا
اتوقع ما مع سجل اصابات
بالضبط.
واظن اخذ مبالغ او جدد ظبط عقده مع نيوكاسل.
بالضبط صحيح. فانا اشوف انه في لخبطه، اتمنى يحلها ايديهاو سالفه انه يلعب جناح يسار اللي هو ذاك.
لا اصبر الموسم الجاي اذا جاب مهاجم ثالث.
بالضبط، هذه بتصير حرفيا نكبه.
طبعا انا قاعد اشوف الاسئله، راح نختم بهذا السؤال. الا اذا الن في حاجه تبغى تضيفها او سؤال
لا والله،
تجاوب
بس
عليه.
انا برايي ما في مشاكل بيناتهم، بين اللاعبين متفاهمين يعني، ما في
بين مين
لخبطه.
ومين؟
انا بين ويلسون
اوكي.
وما في مشاكل بينهم، المشكله في ايديهاو ليش ما يوظفوا مع
ما في
بعض؟
مشكله، لا ما في مشكله. هو يبي عم يلعب على المداوره، عم يعتمد اسلوب المداوره بيناتهم.
فيها تخلي. هو لو تلاحظ ما يلعب باثنين الا اذا فعلا حس انه ما قدر.
انزرك
يعني الحل
إذا
الاخير
انزرك بس ينزرك بس ينزرك يعني
ايوه
بس ينزرك بنزل حلوه بالعكس يعني. انا بشوف نحن لازم يكون عندنا دائما اللاعبين اللي بدنا نتعاقد معهم يكونوا بيلعبوا بكذا مركز. هذا انت بتكسب لاعبين او ثلاثه بلاعب واحد.
بس خوفك انك
إيزاك
تخرب
هو
كذا نفسيه اللاعبين في غرفه الملابس.
لا بالعكس،
عارف انه مستحيل ويلسون انه يشوف مركزه يطير قدامه وهو جالس، فهمت؟ فانت كذا بتعدم نفسيات اللاعبين، وبنفس الوقت يعني انت تحتاج كل ذره عرق في الملعب. لازم انك ما تفقد البالانس في غرفه الملابس.
في مداوره مره يبدا
في مداوره في
بس انت وقت حرج، اهل ابطال، لازم النفسيه تكون مرتاحه.
ما فيك تلعب اثنين. هلا ما فيك تلعب بتغير الخطه 4-4-2 بهذا الوقت، تلعب مهاجمين صريحين، عرفت؟
العب
هلا
4-3-3. طيب
ما فيك، بدك تلعب مهاجم سترايكر هلا كانه اجره منيحه صايره ويلسون على الجول يعني. حتى اجته عارضه كره بالعارضه مرتين بالعارضه يعني. عن جد هي كان بانتظارها برونو. لا برايي بالعكس، الهجوم هجومنا ما حدا فيه يحكي عليه يعني. 10 اهداف 13 هدف بثلاث مباريات.
نحتاج يا مهاجم ثالث.
انا برايي حاليا هلا
الموسم القادم تشامبيونز ليج
اكيد بحاجه، اكيد بدك
ما في
انت بدك تلعب
ثالث
ابراهيموفيتش.
عندك كذا جبهه بدك تلعب عليه الموسم القادم يعني. في عندك كاس الرابطه، في عندك كاس الدوري، في عندك الدوري. خلاص ما عاد في تراجع، لا تراجع ولا استسلام.
طبعا في عندي بعض الاسئله يعني قليله، يعني سؤالين يمكن بس ودي David, please quickly if you can answer this question by the movies. What if إعمار كان إعمار build the stadium or...
It's potential. I mean, I don't know if Imar have a presence in the UK, if they actually are a registered UK construction company, because obviously they would have to obviously set up and do it there, register a UK company to obviously build the stadium. It's possible. I don't know why not. again, you know, anything's possible, I guess, but I assume that it would go to a tender process. And obviously there would be recommendations from the architects who would obviously be the best to build it.
منافسة بين المهندسين.
اي بالضبط.
But also at the same time, I mean, Aymar could quite easily be the sponsor for the stadium and also the sponsor for the training ground. So, you know, as I said, all of these things can be sponsored: the training ground, the training pitch, and so on and so on. You know, so it's potential. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this is as I said, what the Man United have done. They've basically sponsored everything. You know, they've got an official sock partner, an official shorts partner, an official watch partner, an official this, official that. So basically, you know, all of these avenues can be explored. And again, they have a catering partner who does their food, and on and on and on. So, you know, it's possible to obviously get and sponsor everything. If then obviously it works in synergy so that they are able to provide a service to the club as well. Like I believe the last thing I heard was that they were working with a point of sale partner for all of the food and beverage outlets in the stadium. So they would have a company that actually provides all their point of sale. So when you pay with your card, but they would also be sponsoring the club. So they would sponsor and they provide a service for us. So it's a bilateral agreement, you know. So yeah, this is quite smart business.
What is it, David, exactly? Portofilo?
What do you mean? Sorry. Oh, point of sale. Sorry, point of sale. So basically, it's like, you know, when you pay with your card or your phone and you put it on the little PayPal thing, where the person who goes,
okay, طريقة الدفع.
Yeah, it's called point of sale. So basically, point of sale is the point where you sell or you pay for something.
SCCP.
So I mean, yeah, it's possible. Obviously, if there's synergy, you know, if there's synergy between a company, so you know they can provide a service.
Leave العلم. Okay. We would like at the end, thank you for this long show. Really appreciate it. We talk about a lot of things. Thank you,
Yeah,
David. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Badr.
Afwan, Yoki, anytime. Wallah. What was I saying? Look, I mean, obviously, the problem is that we could probably speak for another 3 hours. You know, that's the thing. There's that much to talk about. So, I mean, we didn't even talk about the Tottenham match. You know what I mean? We didn't even talk about Villa. We haven't talked about any of these things. You know, the problem is, brothers, when we're together and time is flying so much because we're in good company. So anyway, I bid you all masalama, jazakallah khair, and we will speak again soon. God bless you all.
And I want to thank you, David, about Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Yeah. Take care of yourself, my brother. Take care. And I'll see you in Saudi very soon.
How is the lad?
How are the lads?
How are the lads?
طبعا كنا معكم في هذه الحلقات.
مع السلامة.
الأشياء هذه حلقة بعنوان دوري أبطال أوروبا، بس تكلمنا برضو أشياء كثير. طبعا هذه الحلقة نقدمها في فوف المقر الرسمي مشجعي نادي نيوكاسل يونايتد والراعي الرسمي لنادي نيوكاسل يونايتد. ودي أقول على التيك توك بس سحبنا عليه شوي، لكن إن شاء الله راجعين له قريب إن شاء الله. ما تنسون جروب الواتساب. عندنا مجتمع الواتساب، حاجة جديدة في الواتس، فيها أكثر من 20 جروب، ممكن توصل إلى 50 جروب. كل جروب فيه يعني أمور مختلفة، أو أنت شوف عاد إيش الجروب اللي يناسبك أو يناسب اهتماماتك. في شيء أخبار عاجلة، في جروب برضو خاص 24 ساعة، يعني ما حد يزعل الواحد ياخذ يتكلم عن نيوكاسل الفجر عادي أي وقت. طبعا الكود خاص من البرنامج WN U0 من نون. طبعا إن شاء الله عندنا ضيف إن شاء الله مميز زي ضيوف اليوم إن شاء الله، يوم الجمعة إن شاء الله الساعة 12 إن شاء الله، وراح نأكد لكم إن شاء الله أكثر في تويتر. برضو ما تنسون اشتراك في القناة نيوكاسل مع وليد ومتابعتنا في تويتر. طبعا شكرا لكم، وطبعا تصبحون على خير.